Security cameras worldwide are capturing the impossible. Tiny winged figures darting through shadows, small humanoids peeking from behind rocks, and even a preserved fairy body unearthed in England. Hoax or breakthrough? Let's explore. The video features Erwin Saunders, a man from Britain who explores nature while searching for fairies and elves, always carrying a camera. While filming deep in the forest, he eventually notices something near a rocky area and focuses the camera there. A small head appears briefly, followed by a tiny creature emerging from behind the rocks for a few seconds. Its shy, curious movement makes it seem unusual and intriguing, leaving a strong impression and a sense of wonder about whether it could be real. Deep in the Missouri wilderness, a YouTuber called My Slice of Heaven Outdoors recorded a mysterious event that caught viewers' attention. While reviewing footage from a trail camera set up to monitor his property, he noticed a tiny winged creature darting into view at dawn. The being, about the size of a hummingbird, appeared to have shimmering wings that reflected the early light. When the footage was shared online, some viewers suggested it resembled a fairy from folklore, while others believed it was likely a bird affected by lighting conditions. Regardless of the explanation, the sighting sparked curiosity about what might be hidden in Missouri's forests. In the summer of 2017, a resident of Guadalajara, Mexico, reported discovering a small winged humanoid figure on their patio. No bigger than a child's hand, it resembled fairies from legend, with a slender, pale form and detailed wings, along with tiny hands and feet. News of the find quickly spread, drawing attention from cryptozoologists and enthusiasts worldwide. Some believed it could represent an undiscovered species, while critics pointed to the lack of scientific evidence and similar reports in the area, suggesting it was likely a hoax. In 2017, explorer James Corwin reported finding something unusual in the remote Rocky Mountains. While hiking near a falcon's nest, he noticed a tiny skeletal figure in the twigs. It was only a few inches long, but resembled a human form with a small skull and long, thin limbs. The structure appeared lightweight and hollow, and its origin was unclear. Corwin brought the find back to North Carolina and shared it with experts in biology and anthropology. Some believed it was fabricated, while others suggested it could be from an unknown species, possibly even something resembling a fairy from folklore. Corwin continues to study the find in an effort to understand its origins. Security camera footage in Russia has drawn significant attention online. The video shows an unusual figure emerging from garden foliage. Many viewers consider it a fake due to its small size and erratic movements, suggesting it may have been digitally created. Others see it as possible evidence of a fairy, pointing to its humanoid shape and translucent wings. Russia's folklore includes stories of small winged beings, and the footage has renewed interest in these legends. While opinions differ on its authenticity, it remains an intriguing mystery. Let's go back to the summer of 2007, when Phyllis Bacon from New Addington, England, had a strange experience. One quiet afternoon, she took several photos of the plants in her garden. Later, while reviewing the images, she noticed something unusual, a tiny winged figure hovering in the background. The figure was only a few inches tall and resembled a classic fairy with delicate wings and a soft glow. Bacon began researching, exploring books and websites about fairy folklore. While some dismissed the image as an insect or a trick of the light, others suggested it could have been a rare or unknown type of butterfly. The Cottingley Fairies became one of the most famous fairy photographs in history. In 1917, two cousins in Cottingley, England, 16-year-old Elsie and 9-year-old Frances Griffiths, claimed they saw fairies while playing near a stream. To support their story, they took photos showing small winged figures and a gnome-like creature. While Elsie's father dismissed it as a prank, her mother believed them, and the images eventually reached Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, who published them in 1920 as evidence of fairies. The photos sparked widespread debate, with some convinced and others skeptical, especially since experts reported no signs of tampering. Decades later, in the early 1980s, the women admitted the images were staged using cardboard cutouts, though the story had already captured public imagination for years. Musician John Rutledge reported seeing a fairy while walking near his home in the Welsh countryside. While near a green field, he noticed a flutter of wings and turned to see several tiny, translucent figures hovering in mid-air. Their wings reflected the sunlight, and their slender limbs gave them a human-like appearance. Rutledge quickly took photos and shared them online. Many viewers were skeptical and accused him of manipulation, but he stood by his account. Despite the criticism, he was inspired by the experience and later launched a podcast about mythical creatures, encouraging others to share their own unexplained encounters. In the town of Northampton, Lisa Wildgoose, a hairdresser with a passion for photography, noticed something unusual during a family photo shoot in Bluebell Woods. Captivated by the wildflowers, she later returned with her camera to take more pictures. While reviewing the images, Lisa spotted something unexpected in the corner of one photo. A tiny figure no bigger than a thimble with delicate wings and a soft glow. When she shared the image with her young daughters, Mia and Madison, they believed they had seen a real fairy. Images that appeared online in 2007 seemed to show a tiny, fairy-like figure, complete with wings, teeth, skin, and hair, displayed on a forensic table. A dramatic press release claimed an anonymous man discovered it while walking his dog in Derbyshire, England, where the animal refused to approach an ancient burial mound. Investigating a crack in the ground, the man reported finding a small, human-like figure with wings, later described by his wife as a tiny but perfect, preserved figure, with claims of many more inside the mound. The story sparked widespread excitement and debate online, fueled by reports that the find had been examined and x-rayed. However, 1 week later, the creator revealed it was a hoax, explaining he was an artist and magician, though the brief moment of belief captured people's imagination. John Hyatt, a professor at Manchester Metropolitan University, shared a set of images that drew widespread attention. The high-resolution photos, taken in Lancashire's Rossendale Valley, appeared to show tiny winged figures with a glowing light. Using advanced photography equipment, Hyatt captured these forms as they seemed to move through the air in unusual ways. He spent many hours studying the valley, waiting for the right moment to document the phenomenon. When the images were displayed at the Whitaker Museum, they sparked debate over whether they were genuine or simply visual effects. Despite criticism, Hyatt maintains his perspective and encourages people to remain open-minded about what the images might represent. In a quiet suburb of Auckland, New Zealand, a woman known online as CDB4 noticed something unusual while reviewing her outdoor security camera footage. She saw a glowing winged figure moving through the night sky, followed by small orbs of light. Curious about what she captured, she shared the footage on her YouTube channel, prompting discussion among viewers. Some suggested it was insects or dust reflecting the camera's light, while others considered the possibility of something less easily explained. She analyzed the footage frame by frame, but the mystery remains unresolved, with theories ranging from natural explanations to unusual visual effects. In the jungles of Thailand, explorer Brett Madden reported discovering a small mummified figure, about 3 inches long, known locally as the Naron, or Thai flower pod, hidden among tree roots. With wing-like features and a delicate form, it resembled fairies from local folklore, which described these beings as forest protectors and spirit messengers. While some suggested imaging tests supported its authenticity, others remained skeptical, and the discovery renewed global interest in the legend. A video shared by YouTuber Jessica Pfizer has drawn curiosity from viewers. The footage shows an unusual figure landing on the floor, moving briefly, and then disappearing between parked cars in a parking garage. Because it does not move like a typical four-legged animal, viewers ruled out animals like squirrels or rats. Some even joked it could be a penguin, though that seemed unlikely. The figure's true identity remains unclear. Do you think this was a simple misidentification or something less easily explained? Share your thoughts in the comments. Just 2 years ago, a woman had a strange experience at home with her dog. She noticed the dog acting unusually, as if reacting to something it sensed in the shadows. Curious, she stepped into her backyard, where a tiny figure, no bigger than a hummingbird, suddenly flew past her face. Its shimmering, rainbow-colored wings gave it an unusual appearance. Surprised, she stepped back, and the figure disappeared as quickly as it appeared. In the days that followed, she searched online and found many similar accounts of fairy-like beings. Some described lighthearted encounters, while others mentioned less easily explained experiences. However, the true identity of what she saw remains unknown. In 2017, a Reddit user shared an unusual story. While gardening, they found what appeared to be a detailed doll resembling a fairy, dressed in green with flowing blonde hair. Thinking it would make a nice gift for their sibling, they reached to pick it up, but then noticed something unexpected. The figure suddenly moved. With fluttering wings, it lifted into the air and disappeared into the garden. The user believed they had witnessed something extraordinary, possibly a fairy-like figure. Others, however, suggested it may have been a misunderstanding or a fabricated story. No clear explanation has been confirmed. In August, a home security camera in British Columbia, Canada, owned by Steve Macbeth, captured unusual footage. Designed to detect animals or people, the camera typically recorded common wildlife, but one night it alerted him to a person. When he reviewed the clip, he saw a small glowing shape move across the frame and fly toward the camera, appearing almost humanoid. While some viewers thought it resembled a fairy, Steve believed it was likely an insect and shared the video for fun. The clip sparked curiosity online and brought him particular joy when he showed it to his grandchildren. This next clip shows a young girl who appears to be celebrating her birthday. As she walks toward another room, she notices something and reacts with surprise. A small, gnome-like figure can be seen moving across the floor. Some viewers suggest it could be a rodent, though others point out what looks like a small pointed hat. It may simply be an animal interacting with a party decoration. This event took place in Chester, England, a quiet city near the Welsh border. Lucia Cardaro, a 37-year-old songwriter and mother, was getting into bed after 11 p.m. when she heard a motorbike outside, followed by a sudden thump on her living room window. Thinking something had hit the glass, she checked her CCTV footage and noticed a tiny winged figure passing by the camera. Cardaro said, "When I looked at the footage, I thought it was unusual. If it's a butterfly, it looks a lot like a fairy, which is very strange." After reviewing the clip several times, she became more convinced of what she saw. When she showed her 4-year-old son, he excitedly wondered if it might return to Father Christmas and report that he had been good. This video was shared by a viewer named Mark H. from his backyard in the suburbs of Portland, Oregon. Mark noted that he does not believe in fairies and had installed an infrared camera only to monitor whether stray cats or raccoons visited a water bowl at night. Around 4:31 a.m., the camera captured something unexpected. From the top of the frame, a small winged figure moved down and landed on the rim of the water bowl. It did not rush, but appeared to settle gently, with wings moving lightly. Mark said the moment caught his attention, as the figure did not move like a typical insect. It remained still briefly, then lifted off and disappeared beyond a nearby fence. When Mark shared the clip, some viewers compared it to familiar scenes from movies, while others suggested it could be an insect or a visual effect. Mark simply said he was unsure what it was, but the experience left a lasting impression. A clear daytime video from Ohio shows a small winged figure recorded by a woman named Emily R., who had set up a bird feeder in her backyard. One morning, she noticed the figure standing on the feeder, calmly picking up seeds and eating in a natural, unhurried way. With a thin body, dark coloring, and transparent wings, it appeared unlike any familiar animal. After a few moments, it flew off and disappeared behind a tree. When Emily shared the clip online, viewers debated whether it was real, staged, or digitally created, with many noting its lifelike movements. Emily remains unsure, but continues checking the feeder each morning, hoping to see it again. This video was recorded by a Spanish man while walking through a dense forest in northern Spain, near a mountainous area with pine trees and exposed rock formations. He was filming the scenery after hearing an unusual sound when the camera tilted toward a low rock, capturing a small winged figure crouching on the surface. The figure remains still briefly, then jumps to a nearby branch. Its thin body, long limbs, and delicate wings are visible for a moment. The person filming stays quiet and avoids sudden movement as the figure turns toward the camera before disappearing into the forest. After being shared online, the clip prompted discussion among viewers. Some believe it was staged, while others see it as a possible resemblance to figures described in European folklore. The true explanation remains unclear. This viral video does not take place in a forest or under unusual lighting. It shows a man in Germany placing a very small winged figure onto a white sheet of paper so it can be seen clearly on camera. The figure appears about the size of a finger, with red-orange wings and a form that does not resemble a typical insect. Its posture gives it a somewhat humanoid appearance. What drew attention was its behavior. It remains mostly still and does not immediately fly away. The man appears to handle it gently while recording. In 2008, YouTuber HH captured a video that continues to stir the debate about the existence of fairies. HH's children noticed a strange insect resting on a tree branch during a simple family outing. At first glance, it looked like a dragonfly, its shaking wings glowing in the sunlight. But as it began to move, its body elongated and its wings shifted, revealing a tiny humanoid shape. This transformation was caught in remarkable detail, leaving HH and his children in awe. The video quickly went viral, but skeptics dismissed it as a fake. For believers, however, it was a magical moment where myth crossed into reality. HH sought expert opinions, but remained convinced he had witnessed something extraordinary. This video was posted by YouTuber Coco Puff. A home security camera captured footage during the dead of night, showing a small winged creature fluttering near the lens. At first glance, it looks like an insect or bird reflecting the camera's light. But when the footage is slowed down, one can observe details resembling a humanoid figure and deliberate movements. Some viewers commented that it might be a spider creating a visual trick, while others saw it as proof of something more mysterious. Coco's channel has become a focal point for the existence of fairies and other mythical creatures. The video appears to come from the early days of YouTube, judging by its camera quality. It shows some kids playing with a soccer ball, trying to balance it on their feet, when a small, unclear creature suddenly moves across the floor. When slowed down, the figure is still difficult to identify. It could be a rat, but the video's title and many comments suggest it resembles a gnome, possibly wearing a small pointy hat. This video begins very simply. A man walks into a room, pauses for a few seconds, then turns to leave. At that moment, he stops, as if noticing a faint sound, and turns back toward the camera. Two small winged figures appear nearby, moving through the air at close range. Instead of reacting suddenly, the man remains still as they move in smooth, circular patterns, unlike the erratic motion of typical insects. Viewers have pointed out how unusual their movement and proximity to the camera appear. The clip ends quickly without explanation, leaving room for interpretation. Some believe it may be staged or digitally edited, while others see it as an interesting, unexplained moment. So, what do you think? A rare encounter with a legendary being, or just a garden story taken too far? The comments are waiting for your answer. I don't know what you think, but I hope these fairies show up in my dreams. What about you? Would you want to meet them in real life? Leave a comment and let us know your thoughts. And don't forget to subscribe so you can continue exploring the things this world still cannot explain. A transparent craft hovering over Nevada released a black orb that followed a witness through the desert. A glowing object in Florida slowly descended toward a river before the footage abruptly ended. Fighter jets were even filmed pursuing a mysterious craft over the sea, while fishermen watched from below. Let's look at UFO sightings caught on camera that have left investigators. Near Area 51, a man filming the desert landscape unexpectedly captured a remarkable scene. In the distance, a massive saucer-shaped object appeared to rest on the ground, its unusual form standing out against the barren terrain. According to the witness, small figures soon began to emerge from the object. Overcome with fear at the sight, the man abruptly fled the area, causing the recording to end suddenly. Several days later, another clip surfaced online that allegedly showed the interior of an unidentified aircraft, where some viewers believed they could distinguish a small figure with an elongated head. Not long afterward, images circulating in Mexico City, purporting to depict small bodies with similarly elongated skulls, sparked further debate. While many observers dismissed the events as coincidences or simple misinterpretations, others viewed the sequence of sightings as possible hints pointing towards something beyond Earth. On November 4, 2025, a video recorded in Florida surfaced online, capturing a mysterious scene above a river partially veiled by a thin layer of drifting smoke. The footage shows a man filming a large, unidentified object suspended over the water, its surface illuminated by soft blue lights that pulsed faintly against the surrounding haze. As the recording continued, the object began to descend slowly toward the river below. For several tense moments, its movement suggested the possibility of an imminent crash. However, the video concluded before the outcome could be clearly observed. During a hike in Nevada in January 2026, a man lifted his camera after noticing an unusual sight in the desert sky not far from Area 51. Suspended above him was a transparent, saucer-shaped object that appeared to hover silently in the air. From the underside of the larger craft, a small black orb slowly descended and positioned itself just below it, hovering in place as though observing the scene beneath. The witness can be heard explaining to the camera that the object had been trailing him for several minutes. Moments later, the orb drifted away, while the saucer gradually rose higher and higher until it vanished into the sky, leaving the desert landscape quiet once again. No one has been able to explain this phenomenon yet. In 2020, several people stepped outside after hearing an unusual sound echoing through the night sky. As their attention turned upward, a vast red glow could be seen slowly descending through the clouds, casting an eerie light across the darkness. Witnesses quickly began recording as the luminous mass continued its gradual movement downward. For several seconds, the intense glow illuminated the surrounding sky before slowly beginning to fade. As the light diminished, a separate object suddenly became visible, streaking downward at high speed. The witnesses remained silent, attempting to comprehend what had just unfolded above them, while the strange phenomenon left many questioning what had truly crossed the sky that night. Images recorded in 2001 from a helicopter revealed a remote excavation site situated in a barren landscape. From the aerial perspective, the location resembled a massive open pit carved deep into the earth, where heavy machinery operated continuously around the perimeter while the camera slowly surveyed the scene. As the helicopter moved closer, the interior of the excavation exposed a striking and unexpected feature. At the center of the vast opening stood an enormous circular metal structure whose presence dominated the surrounding area. Its surface appeared weathered and worn, suggesting that it may have remained buried underground for a considerable period of time. The unusual size and perfectly rounded shape of the object prompted many observers to question the official explanation of the site, leaving the footage surrounded by speculation and far more questions than answers. In this clip, several individuals can be seen moving carefully around an object while taking notes and examining its surface. The structure itself is enormous, filling much of the camera's frame and dominating the surrounding environment with its imposing presence. Alleged archival images attributed to the KGB reportedly show a massive object suspended above a desert facility, a location that some observers speculate could be connected to Area 51. Throughout the footage, no explanation is provided regarding the nature of the object or the circumstances that brought it there. The recording concludes abruptly, offering no clarification and leaving only unanswered questions. On November 8, 2019, a man driving near a forest noticed something unusual beside a nearby river. In the distance, a bright object appeared to be burning close to the ground among the trees, its intense glow standing out against the darkened landscape. Curiosity led him to stop his vehicle and begin recording the scene. The strong light cast an eerie illumination across the surrounding area, while the object itself remained motionless, as though it had fallen there only moments earlier. The forest around the site was completely silent, and no other people were visible in the vicinity. The video captured only a brief glimpse of the object before the recording ended, leaving unresolved questions about what had actually been lying there. A security camera positioned near a water tower recorded a small bright orb that suddenly entered the frame, moving rapidly through the darkness toward the structure. Within seconds, the luminous sphere crossed the air and appeared to pass directly through the side of the tower. The motion occurred so quickly that many initially assumed it might have been nothing more than a visual artifact or a brief camera malfunction. However, a later review of the footage reportedly revealed visible damage to the structure, prompting further questions about what may have actually struck the tower that night. As the recording circulated online, the mysterious incident quickly sparked widespread debate and speculation. A leaked video began circulating online that appeared to show an unusual confrontation near the coast of Yemen. In the footage, a U.S. military drone can be seen directing its focus toward a mysterious object hovering above the surface of the sea. Moments later, the drone launches a missile that travels directly toward the unidentified object, making the impending impact seem unavoidable. According to individuals who later analyzed the clip, however, the missile appears to deflect or rebound upon contact rather than destroying the target. The striking moment quickly sparked numerous theories across the internet. Some observers suggested the possibility of experimental or unknown technology, while others proposed that the effect could have resulted from a visual distortion or recording artifact. Still others speculated about far more extraordinary explanations, and the debate surrounding the footage continues to persist. On November 11, 2023, residents in Lexington, Kentucky reported seeing a powerful light moving slowly across the night sky above their neighborhood. At first, the brightness was so intense that distinguishing any specific shape proved difficult, as the glow dominated the scene and obscured the object within it. Gradually, as the light began to soften, a more defined outline started to emerge. The object appeared round in form, resembling the classic saucer-like shape often associated with unidentified aerial phenomena, while a series of small lights seemed to run along its outer edges. Observers on the ground reacted in different ways, with some interpreting the sight as evidence of something not originating from Earth finally revealing itself, while others considered the possibility of advanced testing or experimental technology. A group of fishermen navigating the waters near Galatia began recording after noticing several fighter jets speeding overhead. At first, the scene appeared to resemble a routine military exercise, but their movements suggested that they were actively pursuing something. Moments later, the camera captured the source of their focus: an object hovering above the surface of the sea, unlike anything normally expected in that environment. The jets appeared to close in from multiple directions, maneuvering around the object as if attempting to contain it while it tried to move away. As the encounter unfolded, the unidentified object seemed to be forced downward toward the water. The footage ended without revealing how the confrontation concluded, yet the sight of such an unusual pursuit would likely leave a lasting impression on anyone who witnessed it. In September 2025, a man in Tucson, Arizona began recording after noticing unusual lights appearing high in the sky above him. What followed proved difficult to explain, as a long, solid-looking object gradually emerged from the clouds while glowing in shifting shades of red, green, and white. As the colors continued to change, the display created the impression that the object was slowly descending through the sky. The recording did not continue for long, as the man soon left the area, leaving whatever occurred afterward beyond the camera's view. At first glance, the object resembled something that might appear in a futuristic technology exhibition rather than in an ordinary night sky. Yet the phenomenon unfolding above Tehran, Iran, was not part of any public demonstration. The object glided smoothly across the sky, its steady motion leaving onlookers momentarily frozen in place. Many observers quickly described it as a UFO, while reactions online spread across a wide spectrum of theories. Some speculated about classified technological projects, whereas others considered far more unsettling possibilities. Whatever its true nature may have been, the object displayed behavior unlike anything commonly recognized. What do you think of this object? Let me know your opinion, and don't forget to check out more interesting content in the top right corner of your screen. Unusual incidents in the sky appear to be reported with increasing frequency, and this particular event quickly drew attention. On December 21, 2025, a resident in Argentina recorded a bright object hovering silently in the sky. When the footage was later zoomed in, the object appeared to possess multiple layers, surrounded by detailed circular rings that created an almost hypnotic visual effect. At first, the formation seemed strangely mesmerizing, yet the lack of any clear explanation soon transformed curiosity into uncertainty. Some observers linked the phenomenon to large-scale projection or experimental technology, while others believed the event suggested something far more significant. Regardless of the interpretation, the footage left viewers uncertain whether they had witnessed an unusual display of beauty, an advanced technological demonstration, or something far more deliberate and mysterious. While flying over a mountainous region in Serbia, a pilot noticed an unusual sight that immediately drew attention. Hovering above one of the peaks was a massive flying craft that maintained a perfectly steady position while projecting a focused beam of light downward toward the mountain. The most puzzling aspect of the encounter was that the object remained completely stationary throughout the event, suggesting that it was not merely passing through the area. According to the pilot's interpretation, the craft may have been extracting material from beneath the surface, or interacting with whatever substance had been released from the mountain. After briefly circling the location and observing the phenomenon in disbelief, the pilot ultimately departed the area, leaving the strange scene behind. While driving through Orlando, a woman noticed an object ahead in the sky that clearly did not resemble a conventional aircraft. Suspended above the area was a saucer-shaped craft with a glowing underside, its form distinctly visible even from a considerable distance. What made the sight especially striking was the object's complete lack of movement. Rather than traveling across the sky, it remained perfectly still, hanging motionless in the air as though unaffected by gravity or wind. The unusual stillness created an unsettling atmosphere, leaving observers uncertain whether the object was paused, gathering energy, or quietly observing the surroundings. Encountering such a phenomenon in broad daylight made the experience particularly memorable and difficult to dismiss. On October 28, 2023, an unusual event was reported over downtown Frankfurt, Germany. Witnesses first observed a distinct beam of light extending from the sky down toward the ground, creating a striking vertical column against the night backdrop. Within this beam, a small, unidentified object could be seen descending slowly and deliberately. As the object moved lower, it emitted a concentrated light beyond the boundaries of the beam, further deepening the sense of confusion among those watching. Although no one was able to clearly determine its nature, the object's controlled movement and unusual behavior suggested a level of technological sophistication. The sequence of events, its sudden appearance, its brief pause while suspended within the beam, and its abrupt disappearance left the impression that it may have descended only briefly before departing the area without warning. While standing outside his workshop and casually photographing the clouds, Juanito Juan unintentionally captured something unexpected in his camera's frame. Within a brief moment, he managed to take 3 clear photographs before the object disappeared from view. The images did not resemble the typical blurry or accidental sightings often associated with such claims. Instead, the object appeared solid, dark, and smooth, reflecting sunlight in a way that made it seem almost naturally at home in the sky. Later, Juanito appeared on television and firmly maintained his account of the event. As a mechanic, he did not appear to be someone with access to sophisticated image editing technology. The photographs themselves were sharp and detailed, leaving viewers to interpret for themselves what had entered the frame of his camera that day. Late on May 5, 2023, a security camera mounted on an apartment building in Michigan captured an unusual moment that initially went unnoticed. In the footage, a powerful beam of light suddenly descends from above, briefly illuminating the surrounding area before fading just as quickly. At the time, many dismissed the event as distant thunder or an unusual lighting effect, and the recording attracted little attention until it was carefully reviewed again at a later date. Another encounter further deepened the mystery. At approximately 10:32 p.m. on April 28, 2024, a father and son were driving through Fortuna in the Murcia region when a glowing disc-shaped object caught their attention in the sky. The object moved steadily across the darkness, beginning at a higher altitude before descending rapidly. A bright beam extending beneath it remained visible for several moments before the object disappeared from sight, leaving the witnesses uncertain about what they had just observed. While staying at a hotel in Seoul, China, a tourist stepped onto his balcony and noticed an unusual sight in the distance. A narrow beam of light suddenly appeared in the sky, prompting the initial assumption that it might have been part of a local event or a distant light display. However, closer observation made the situation increasingly difficult to explain. The light appeared to originate from within a dense cluster of clouds, rather than from any visible source on the ground. From the tourist's perspective, it seemed as though something concealed above the cloud layer was directing the beam downward into the tree line below. Whatever produced the phenomenon remained hidden from view, and the tourist ultimately chose not to investigate further. The purpose of the light, as well as the source behind it, remains unknown. Off the coast of Los Angeles, a clearly defined saucer-shaped object was filmed hovering just above the surface of the water. Rather than concealing its presence, the object remained fully visible, with green and red lights blinking steadily along its structure, creating the impression that it was deliberately drawing attention to itself. Some viewers quickly suggested that the object might have been a drone. However, the way it hovered so openly over the water made that explanation appear less convincing to others. If the object represented something unfamiliar, it displayed no apparent concern about being observed. This possibility led to a more unsettling interpretation. The visibility may not have been accidental at all. Instead, the steady flashing lights and deliberate exposure gave the impression that attention might have been invited rather than avoided. Witnessing such a scene would likely have unsettled anyone, which explains why the man filming in Mexico initially suspected that his eyes might be deceiving him. In the sky above, several glowing objects appeared, each shaped like a long tube, an unusual form that did not resemble any commonly recognized aircraft. What made the sight even more striking was the way the objects seemed arranged in stacked layers, as though multiple sections had been placed one above another. This structure suggested the possibility of internal space rather than a simple solid form, raising speculation that the design might accommodate complex systems or even occupants. The overall arrangement gave the impression of a deliberate presence rather than a random occurrence, leaving the unsettling sense that the objects were not merely passing through the sky without purpose. By the end of 2025, observers began to notice what appeared to be an emerging pattern. Reports and recordings of diamond-shaped crafts started appearing in different regions of the world. One such object was filmed in Brazil, where it remained suspended in a clear blue sky, its sharp geometric edges distinctly visible against the bright background. Shortly afterward, another video surfaced from Puebla, Mexico, showing an object that looked remarkably similar, though captured with greater clarity. One of the most striking features in this footage was a series of window-like sections running along the center of the structure, giving the impression of a floating construct rather than a simple airborne object. This architectural detail suggested deliberate design and purpose. As more of these sightings appeared, they began to feel less like isolated incidents and more like fragments of a broader, unfolding pattern. Late one night in Palmdale, California, a family noticed an unusual object suspended in the sky above their neighborhood. At first, they attempted to explain the sight as a drone or perhaps an aircraft using a powerful searchlight. Yet the longer they observed it, the more unusual the situation appeared. Rather than resembling a typical aircraft, the object seemed more like a spacecraft covered with flashing lights that illuminated the ground below. Its movement did not appear random. Instead, it glided slowly through the air, almost as if it were methodically scanning the area beneath it. The family watched in uncertainty, unable to determine whether they had witnessed an example of advanced technology or something far more unfamiliar that did not seem to belong to the ordinary skies above them. These recordings show unusual sightings have been reported in many different parts of the world, captured by witnesses who often had only a few seconds to react before the moment passed. What makes these encounters especially fascinating is not just the objects themselves, but the questions they leave behind. Are we witnessing misunderstood natural events, highly classified technologies, or something that does not yet fit into our current understanding of the world? What do you think about these sightings? Could there be simple explanations behind them, or do some of these events suggest something far more extraordinary? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss our upcoming journeys. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video. In 1972, Apollo 16 astronaut Charles Duke became the 10th person to walk on the moon. He spent 71 hours there, roamed the surface on 3 moonwalks, and hauled back 211 pounds of lunar rocks. Officially, it was a triumph. Every goal crushed, from mapping highlands to planting experiments. But years later, Duke's interviews revealed something far stranger. He spoke of the moon not as a scientific win, but as a mind-altering glimpse into Earth, humanity, and the cosmos. So if Apollo was such a success, why did we abruptly stop going back? And what did Duke really see up there that's been hushed up ever since? Let's explore. Apollo 16 launched on April 16, 1972, carrying 3 astronauts, Mission Commander John Young, Command Module Pilot Ken Mattingly, and Lunar Module Pilot Charles Duke. Their destination was the Descartes Highlands, a region scientists once hypothesized was volcanic in origin, though the mission later showed that the terrain was primarily formed by massive impact debris, breccias. The mission maintained a rigorous scientific focus. The crew deployed the Apollo Lunar Surface Experiments Package, ALSEP, to study moonquakes, solar wind, and cosmic rays. They collected 211.2 pounds of rock samples from previously unexamined highland terrain, tested the Lunar Roving Vehicle, LRV, across a landscape more rugged than those explored in earlier missions, and conducted extensive orbital and surface photography. Young and Duke landed the lunar module Orion on April 21st and conducted 3 extravehicular activities, EVAs, over the following 3 days. The first EVA lasted 7 hours and 11 minutes, the second 7 hours and 23 minutes, and the third 5 hours and 40 minutes. Altogether, the pair spent more than 20 hours on the lunar surface, traveling 16.6 miles in the rover while gathering samples from multiple highland sites. Throughout the mission, activities were monitored by Mission Control in Houston. While the mission was a scientific success, it also included several technical challenges. Shortly after separation in lunar orbit, a malfunction in the service module's main engine gimbal system raised the possibility of aborting the landing. Additionally, a heat flow experiment was lost when John Young accidentally tripped over and severed a sensor cable. Charles Duke has since reflected on these tense moments, including a fall during a lunar high jump attempt, noting that the mission involved more risk than many brief historical summaries suggest. However, while Apollo 16 was officially recorded as a carefully planned scientific expedition, Duke later suggested that during one of their surface explorations, something occurred that did not fit neatly into the mission's formal reports. During the second extravehicular activity, roughly 5 hours into their exploration of the Cottingley Plains, Duke and Young encountered events Duke later described as unexpected and unsettling. What began as routine scientific work, he claims, shifted into something far more unusual. In later interviews, Duke recalled several anomalies that he and Young experienced on the lunar surface, events he says never appeared in official mission reports or public records. The first anomaly involved light. Because the moon has no atmosphere, sunlight there should appear intensely white and unfiltered, while shadows should be completely black due to the absence of atmospheric scattering. This was generally what Duke expected and observed during most of the mission. However, while working in one particular area during the second extravehicular activity, he said the character of the light changed. Instead of pure white sunlight, he noticed faint hints of color, soft blues and greens that seemed to have no identifiable source. When he mentioned the observation to Young, Young reportedly confirmed seeing the same effect. They informed Mission Control in Houston, but received no explanation and were instructed to continue their planned tasks. The second anomaly involved sound. In a vacuum, sound cannot travel through air, so the astronauts should have heard only radio transmissions or vibrations conducted through solid contact with their suits or equipment. Yet Duke later stated that in the same region where the unusual lighting appeared, both he and Young heard tones through their helmets. These were not voices or recognizable signals, but harmonic sounds, almost musical in quality, that seemed to resonate inside their suits despite the surrounding vacuum. When they reported the phenomenon to Houston, they again received no explanation and were told to proceed with the mission. A third anomaly was more subjective, a sense that time behaved strangely. Duke described moments during the second extravehicular activity when the passage of time felt distorted. Some periods seemed to pass almost instantly, while tasks that should have required only a few minutes appeared to take much longer. However, when they checked their mission timers, the recorded elapsed time matched expectations. The discrepancy existed only in their perception. Finally, Duke recalled a persistent sensation of being watched. He described a feeling that something unseen was aware of their presence and observing their movements. The sensation was not overtly threatening, but it was strong enough to remain in his mind. As a military test pilot trained to maintain focus under pressure, Duke said he normally ignored psychological distractions, yet he found the feeling difficult to dismiss. According to Duke's later accounts, all of these anomalies occurred in the same general area during the second extravehicular activity. It was in that location, he claimed, that he and Young would soon encounter a discovery that, in his view, changed the nature of the mission entirely. Duke's account of the discovery has remained consistent across multiple interviews. During the second EVA, while driving the lunar roving vehicle across the Cottingley Plains toward a geological sampling site, he noticed something unusual on the horizon. The shape stood out immediately. Unlike the chaotic lunar landscape of craters, boulders, and irregular terrain formed by billions of years of impacts, this formation showed straight lines, sharp edges, and clear angles. Natural geology rarely produces such regular geometry. Duke pointed it out to Young, who confirmed seeing the same anomaly. Intrigued, they diverted from their planned route and drove the rover about 200 meters closer to investigate. As they approached, the feature became even harder to explain as a natural formation. Duke described it as a wall or foundation roughly 100 meters long, composed of large block-like segments arranged in what appeared to be a deliberate pattern. Much of the structure seemed partially buried, with only the upper portions visible above the lunar regolith, suggesting that a larger section might lie beneath the surface. The blocks appeared darker than the surrounding rock and had a smoother texture. Most striking was their geometry, defined edges, corners, and flat faces that erosion or meteor impacts would be unlikely to produce. Some sections even appeared to fit together with notable precision, although long exposure to impacts had damaged parts of the structure. To Duke and Young, the formation resembled something constructed rather than naturally formed, an ordered structure on the moon that defied normal geological expectations. But the most unsettling part wasn't what they saw on the lunar surface. It was how Mission Control reacted when they reported it. Duke and Young approached the structure, examined it visually from a distance of approximately 50 meters, and radioed mission control with a detailed description of what they were seeing. They requested permission to move closer and take additional photographs. According to Duke's later recollection, something unusual then occurred. Houston became silent. The pause felt like several minutes, though Duke later acknowledged that the stress of the moment may have affected his perception of time. When Houston finally responded, Duke said the voice sounded different from the familiar Capcom they had been communicating with, possibly a senior mission official speaking carefully and deliberately. The response, as Duke later described it, was brief. They were instructed to continue the planned EVA activities, not approach the structure any closer, and to photograph it only from their current position if possible, before proceeding to the designated sampling site. Duke said there was no detailed discussion about the object and no visible reaction from mission control. Duke and Young followed those instructions. As trained military pilots and astronauts, they continued with their assigned tasks. They photographed the formation from their position and then drove the rover to the scheduled sampling location. In later interviews, Duke suggested that the calm response from mission control gave him the impression that the situation was being handled cautiously. However, these reflections represent Duke's personal interpretation of the events rather than confirmed historical conclusions. According to Duke, he and John Young took numerous photographs of the structure from several angles during the short time they observed it. Those images, he believes, would have provided documentation that could allow later analysis of the geometry, material composition, and other features. However, Duke later stated that when he returned to Earth and reviewed mission photography after debriefing, the specific images he remembered were not included in the official photo archive. When he asked about them, he said he was told they were being held for technical analysis or that there may have been technical issues during development. He recalls being assured the photographs would be released after review, but he says he never saw them appear publicly. In interviews many years after the mission, Duke has said that he has not found those photographs in NASA's publicly available Apollo 16 image collections or in archives commonly used by researchers and historians. Because of this, he believes the images may have been removed, withheld, or possibly lost during archival processes. Over the years, Duke said he heard several different explanations, including possible technical problems during processing, classification related to reconnaissance technology, or archival misplacement. From his perspective, the changing explanations raised questions for him about what may have happened to the images. For Duke, the absence of the photographs is central to the story. Without them, his recollection remains a personal account rather than documented evidence. He has said that he remembers the photographs being taken and recalls seeing them during early mission reviews, but that he has not encountered them again in the decades since the mission. When Duke examined the structure from the rover, one detail stood out that continues to disturb him decades later: the apparent age. The blocks showed signs of erosion far beyond what would be expected from anything built within the time frame of human history. The moon's surface is constantly bombarded by micrometeorites, solar radiation, and temperature extremes that create a slow weathering process. Rock exposed on the lunar surface develops a characteristic texture over millions of years. The blocks Duke observed showed this kind of deep weathering, suggesting they had been exposed for geological timescales, not thousands of years, but millions or even hundreds of millions of years. If the structures were that old, they would predate human civilization by an incomprehensible margin. They would predate Homo sapiens as a species. They would predate the entire evolutionary lineage that led to humans. They would exist from a time when Earth was populated by dinosaurs, or earlier, when life on Earth was still primarily single-celled organisms. The implications are staggering. Either an intelligence existed in our solar system long before humans evolved, or the structures were built by an intelligence that originated elsewhere and visited our moon in the distant past, or our understanding of lunar geology and human history is fundamentally wrong. Duke does not claim to know which explanation is correct. He insists that the structures appeared ancient, weathered by processes that require geological timescales, and that this observation raises questions that NASA has chosen not to publicly address. Charles Duke is not the only Apollo astronaut whose later comments have sparked discussion about unusual observations during the Apollo missions. Buzz Aldrin, the second person to walk on the moon during Apollo 11, has spoken in interviews about seeing objects during the mission that initially appeared unexplained. Aldrin has generally said these were likely reflections or pieces of spacecraft hardware, though some of his remarks have been interpreted by others in ways that led to additional speculation. Edgar Mitchell, who walked on the moon during Apollo 14, became increasingly outspoken later in life about his personal belief that governments may possess information about extraterrestrial contact that has not been fully disclosed to the public. Mitchell did not claim to have seen such evidence on the moon itself, but he publicly expressed interest in the broader topic of unidentified aerial phenomena and the possibility of non-human intelligence. Al Warden, command module pilot for Apollo 15, also made comments in interviews discussing the possibility that intelligent life could exist elsewhere in the universe. Some of his remarks explored speculative ideas about humanity's origins and the potential for advanced civilizations beyond Earth. These views were widely regarded as his personal opinions rather than official NASA positions. From Duke's perspective, these statements contribute to a broader conversation about whether astronauts may have had experiences or observations that were interpreted in different ways after the missions. Supporters of Duke's account sometimes view his story about a possible structure on the moon as part of that larger discussion, while others consider it an example of how memories, interpretations, and speculation can evolve. Against this backdrop of astronaut reflections and speculation, Charles Duke's story stands out, not only for what he says he experienced, but also because of the remarkable credibility and career that places words under closer public scrutiny. Charles Duke is not typically described as a conspiracy advocate or someone prone to exaggeration. He is widely known as one of the astronauts involved in the Apollo program and has had a long career in aviation and spaceflight. Born in 1935, Duke graduated from the United States Naval Academy and later became an Air Force fighter pilot and test pilot before being selected as a NASA astronaut in 1966. Like the other astronauts of the Apollo era, Duke went through extremely demanding training and was chosen for his technical skill, discipline, and ability to operate under pressure. Astronauts were trained to carefully observe and report what they experienced during missions, which is one reason their recollections often attract public interest. Duke's role in the Apollo program extended beyond his own lunar mission. He served as the capsule communicator, or Capcom, for Apollo 11, meaning his voice was the one Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin heard from Mission Control during the first moon landing. When Armstrong announced, "The Eagle has landed," it was Duke who replied, "Roger, tranquility, we copied you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue. We're breathing again." Duke later walked on the moon during Apollo 16, one of the final lunar missions of the program. In interviews many years after the mission, he has reflected on his experiences and shared personal interpretations of what he observed during the time he spent on and around the lunar surface. Because of his background and role in the Apollo program, Duke's comments sometimes attract attention from people interested in alternative interpretations of lunar exploration history. However, his statements are generally presented as his personal recollections and viewpoints rather than confirmed historical conclusions. And it is precisely because of that credibility that Duke's later reflections lead to an even bigger question. If someone with his background believes something unusual may have been encountered, why did humanity suddenly stop returning to the moon? In interviews and discussions about the topic, Duke has suggested his own interpretation. He has speculated that a discovery of that scale might raise complex questions, such as who could have built such structures, how long they might have existed, and what they could mean for humanity's understanding of the universe. In his view, questions like these could potentially challenge long-standing scientific, historical, or cultural assumptions. From Duke's perspective, it is possible that decision-makers at the time preferred to maintain focus on the official goals of the Apollo program, which were tied to Cold War competition and technological achievement. The program was eventually ended for widely cited reasons, including cost, shifting political priorities, and changing public interest. However, Duke has suggested that other factors might also have influenced how information and discoveries were handled. It is important to note that these ideas reflect Duke's personal interpretation of events rather than confirmed historical conclusions. Historians and space agencies generally explain the end of Apollo through economic and political factors of the early 1970s. Nonetheless, Duke's perspective continues to be discussed by those interested in alternative interpretations of the Apollo era, and the unanswered questions some believe may remain about humanity's first journeys to the moon. Charles Duke is now in his late 80s, reflecting on a career that placed him among the few people who have walked on the moon. Having retired long ago from active service, he occasionally speaks about his experiences during the Apollo program and the lasting impressions those missions left on him. In some interviews, Duke has suggested that there may be aspects of the Apollo era that he believes were not fully explored or discussed at the time. According to his recollections, he felt that certain observations from the missions deserved further investigation, though he acknowledges that the documentation and evidence related to those claims have not been publicly confirmed. His comments often lead to broader questions people ask about lunar exploration. For example, why did human missions to the moon stop after the early 1970s, despite advances in technology since then? Why have later space programs focused more on robotic missions, orbital projects, and destinations such as Mars? Space historians generally explain the end of the Apollo program through a combination of factors, including budget limitations, shifting political priorities, and changing public interest after the initial achievements of the lunar landings. Since then, space agencies have invested heavily in other projects such as space stations, deep space telescopes, and robotic planetary exploration. Duke's personal reflections offer a different perspective on that period of history. He has suggested that some discoveries or observations from the Apollo missions might have raised questions that were not pursued further at the time. However, these ideas remain his personal interpretations rather than confirmed historical conclusions. Today, discussions about returning humans to the moon have re-emerged through new programs aimed at future lunar exploration. As these missions develop, interest in the history of Apollo and in the memories and viewpoints of the astronauts who took part continues to grow. Across oceans, lakes, and rivers, dozens of recordings claim to capture creatures that look almost human, yet move through water in ways no ordinary swimmer could. Let's take a look at the most mysterious real-life mermaid sightings ever caught on camera. A few years ago, a video rapidly spread across the internet, capturing widespread attention. In the footage, a mermaid-like creature appeared seated on a deck beside a lake, though the exact location of the event was never disclosed, leaving viewers confused and intrigued. The creature possessed a body resembling that of a mermaid, yet its appearance differed significantly from the graceful depictions commonly portrayed in films and literature. Upon noticing that it was being recorded, the mysterious figure abruptly slipped into the water and disappeared from view. While fishing on the Wolf River in Wisconsin, a group of people noticed sudden splashing behind their boat, which immediately drew their attention. At the time, most assumed the movement had come from a large fish, since nothing remained visible on the water's surface. However, after reviewing the recorded footage, they observed a strange aquatic creature with a rounded, dark head and a small body that appeared to end in caudal fins. Its unusual shape bore a faint resemblance to the popular image of a mermaid, although the creature's true identity remained unclear and open to interpretation. This video shows a mermaid-like figure struggling to climb across a cluster of rocks. After the footage appeared online, many viewers suggested that the scene simply featured a mermaid enthusiast wearing a costume in an attempt to attract attention and generate views. Despite this explanation, reports of similar sightings have continued to emerge from various locations. The most recent account reportedly occurred in Jamaica, where a passerby unexpectedly encountered a creature resembling a mermaid concealed behind a group of rocks. This video is still highly controversial. No one has been able to explain it. A French diving instructor working late one evening heard the sound of splashing coming from the swimming pool and went to investigate. Yet upon checking the area, he found nothing unusual. Concerned that something might have occurred without his noticing, he decided to review the facility's security footage to confirm what had actually happened. To his astonishment, the recording showed a young woman entering the pool area before diving into the water. When she resurfaced moments later, her legs appeared to have transformed into a tail, resembling that of a mermaid. Shortly afterward, the mysterious woman left the pool, and although numerous attempts were made to identify her, her identity has remained unknown. During a nighttime voyage across the open ocean, one of the men on board began recording the eerie surroundings, when a piercing, shrill sound suddenly echoed through the darkness. The audio was captured clearly in the recording, making the strange call easy to hear. The man, visibly unsettled, suggested that the sound might belong to sirens, mythical, human-like sea creatures set in legend to lure sailors with haunting voices. Others, however, have proposed far more ordinary explanations, arguing that the noise may simply have been produced by dolphins or other marine animals communicating in the water. Despite these rational interpretations, the long history of unsettling maritime tales surrounding sirens continues to leave the true source of the sound open to speculation. While exploring a river in northern Michigan, a group of people were left astonished after spotting what appeared to be a real-life mermaid flopping through the water. The moment was captured on camera, showing the figure moving forward while deliberately keeping her face out of view. At first glance, the sight could easily convince viewers that the long-rumored mythical creature had finally been discovered. However, despite the remarkably realistic appearance, the figure was not an actual mermaid. The individual in the footage is known as Phantom, a professional traveling mermaid who often appears around Michigan's lakes and rivers, where she performs and displays an impressively detailed silicone mermaid tail. In the 1800s, the famous showman P.T. Barnum popularized an exhibit known as the Fiji Mermaid, which quickly captivated audiences. First displayed at Barnum's American Museum in New York in 1842, the unusual specimen attracted widespread curiosity at a time when scientific knowledge about the natural world was still limited, and stories of mythical sea creatures circulated widely. Years later, it became clear that the mermaid was not a real creature, but a carefully constructed hoax. The specimen had been assembled by sewing the upper body of a juvenile monkey onto the tail of a fish, creating the appearance of a dried, mummified mermaid-like figure. Although the deception was eventually exposed, the clever craftsmanship and Barnum's publicity campaign turned the exhibit into one of the most famous curiosities of the 19th century. While flying a drone over the ocean, a young YouTuber unexpectedly noticed a strange figure moving among the rocks below. The footage appeared to show a mermaid-like shape gliding through the water, prompting the operator to review the recording more closely. In a zoomed-in view, the mysterious figure displayed what seemed to be a streamlined body, though its exact form remained difficult to determine. Despite the unusual appearance, the creature could just as easily have been a dolphin or another marine animal passing through the area. As the drone slowly approached, the figure descended deeper into the water, gradually shrinking into a faint blur before disappearing completely from sight. The sudden disappearance left the drone operator puzzled, yet the device could not descend any further without risking a crash into the ocean. As a result, the true identity of the creature remained unresolved, leaving open the possibility that the sighting involved nothing more than an ordinary fish moving through the rocks in search of food. During a vacation outing, someone recorded what appeared to be a real-life mermaid calmly resting in a shallow pool. The blonde figure lay near the bank with her tail extending out of the water, gently splashing her fins as she relaxed in the sun. Throughout the recording, the mermaid-like figure seemed completely unaware of the person filming from behind the camera, which added to the scene's mysterious and convincing atmosphere. At first glance, the footage could easily lead viewers to believe that a genuine mermaid had briefly appeared, before disappearing once again into legend. In reality, however, the figure in the video is known as Mermaid Melissa, an internet personality recognized for dressing as a mermaid and performing for audiences. Through elaborate costumes and carefully crafted performances, she creates captivating scenes that often blur the line between fantasy and reality. Have you ever been to see a mermaid show? Share your experience in the comments. Stories about people claiming to have seen mermaids have circulated for generations, yet such accounts have rarely been taken seriously due to the lack of convincing evidence. That perception shifted slightly when a piece of supposedly old footage surfaced online, appearing to show a mermaid swimming through the water. According to the claim accompanying the video, the recording dates back roughly 75 years, which would make it one of the earliest and potentially most significant mermaid sightings ever captured on camera. Many viewers have argued that the video is fabricated, suggesting that the scene could have been created using modern CGI designed to imitate vintage film. Others have proposed that the effect may simply be the result of sophisticated editing techniques, leaving the alleged sighting firmly within the realm of speculation rather than proven reality. In 2021, reports emerged of an unusual incident on a beach in Sri Lanka, where crowds of locals gathered after beachgoers claimed to have discovered what they believed to be a mermaid stranded on the shore. The creature lay face down on the sand, its tail showing only faint movement as onlookers cautiously approached. To the group's surprise, the creature suddenly jolted and responded with a sharp hiss, startling those nearby. According to the account that circulated afterward, the mermaid had allegedly washed ashore due to severe ocean pollution, and had attempted to survive on land despite being poorly suited to such an environment. The story suggested that the creature was gradually weakening as it struggled outside its natural habitat. Around the same time, another claim surfaced describing a similar discovery somewhere in Asia involving a creature referred to as Jalari. The name, which can translate to water fairy or mermaid, was repeatedly used by the surrounding locals as they gathered around the mysterious figure. Witnesses reportedly covered the creature's upper body with a sheet while it continued to move its tail restlessly, seemingly attempting to return to the sea. However, the path back to the water was obstructed by the crowd that had formed around it, turning the strange encounter into a spectacle filled with confusion and speculation. Another alleged mermaid sighting has drawn attention, largely because of a detail that many viewers found difficult to explain. The incident reportedly occurred on a beach in Jamaica, where several beachgoers noticed a strange figure moving through the water. Although most mermaid sightings are often dismissed as misidentified animals or staged performances, this particular video raised questions for some observers. The figure appeared to be swimming against the current, a movement that many people believe would be extremely difficult under strong wave conditions. Because of this unusual detail, some viewers argued that the creature demonstrated an ability beyond what would normally be expected from an ordinary swimmer. This apparent ease in navigating powerful currents is one of the main reasons certain viewers have suggested that the sighting might depict something extraordinary. Nevertheless, without clearer evidence, the identity of the mysterious figure remains uncertain, leaving the footage open to both skepticism and speculation. Families enjoying a swim at a local lake were left puzzled when they noticed what appeared to be a mermaid surfacing for air. Excited voices from nearby swimmers pointed toward the water as the figure's tail briefly became visible. The mermaid-like swimmer seemed completely unconcerned about being observed and continued gliding through the water as cameras focused on her movements. However, the explanation turned out to be far less mysterious. The figure was actually a woman visiting the lake with her parents who had recently purchased a mermaid tail and decided to test it while swimming. What began as a simple attempt to try out her new tail quickly attracted attention when nearby swimmers mistook the costume for something far more extraordinary. Although she was not a real mermaid, the experience likely gave her the closest feeling possible to swimming like one. In 2018, large crowds gathered along a beach in South Sulawesi, Indonesia, after several beachgoers claimed they had captured a mermaid. When the creature was pulled from the water, its unusual appearance quickly drew attention. Instead of the familiar human-like beauty associated with myth, the creature possessed a rough, leather-like hide and a bulky form that appeared far more animalistic. Once footage of the discovery began circulating online, marine experts and viewers quickly offered a more plausible explanation. The creature was identified as a dugong, a marine mammal closely related to manatees, which is well known for its streamlined body and mermaid-like tail. Historically, dugongs and similar sea animals are believed to have contributed to ancient mermaid legends, as sailors encountering them from a distance may have mistaken their silhouettes for mythical sea creatures. The Copenhagen Museum houses a wide range of unusual and mythical artifacts, among which are displays that some visitors believe to be the remains of real mermaids. Each specimen is presented differently, with certain skeletons carefully propped upright, while others are arranged in reclining positions to provide a clearer view of their distinctive features. The varied presentations are designed to highlight the unusual forms attributed to these mysterious creatures. A number of historians and researchers have examined the skeletons closely and have suggested that they could be authentic remains, although such assertions remain highly debated and unverified. Regardless of whether the specimens are real or fabricated, the mermaid exhibit offers a fascinating glimpse into the kinds of mysterious discoveries that may have fueled ancient stories and sightings of legendary sea beings. What do you think of these specimens? Let me know in the comments, and be sure to explore even more fascinating things located in the top right corner. A drone flying over the waters near Dana Point, California, captured footage of dozens of unusual shapes repeatedly diving in and out of the ocean. After the video began circulating online, many viewers speculated that the footage might show evidence of mermaids. From a distance, the creatures appeared to have slender, elongated bodies, and their movements in the water gave them a vaguely humanoid appearance that fueled the speculation. A closer analysis of the footage, however, provided a far more ordinary explanation. The shapes seen in the water were not mythical beings, but a pod of dolphins, whose smooth bodies and synchronized swimming patterns had created the illusion of something far more mysterious. In 2013, a man preparing to dive at a local diving spot in Croatia set up his camera in advance so that it could capture both the surrounding scenery and his upcoming jump into the water. However, instead of recording an ordinary dive, the camera unexpectedly captured a brief and puzzling moment that appeared to show a mermaid-like figure emerging from the sea. The mysterious creature leapt out of the water for only an instant before quickly submerging again, leaving little time for a clear view. When the clip was replayed in slow motion, the brief appearance seemed to reveal a shape resembling a mermaid. Although the fleeting image sparked curiosity and speculation, the true identity of the creature remained uncertain, leaving the moment open to interpretation. In Utah, a normally quiet shoreline became the setting for a puzzling scene when a camera captured two individuals wearing hazmat suits pulling a strange figure from the water. Nearby, a small group stood beside another shape that had already been covered, suggesting that more than one unusual discovery had been made at the site. The figure being lifted displayed a bright green tail that shimmered under the light, while its upper body appeared almost human in the way it rested as it was carried. Before any further details could be captured, the workers carefully placed the figure onto a stretcher and quickly moved behind a cluster of rocks, taking the mysterious being out of view. The recording ended shortly afterward, leaving the situation unresolved. Following the video's circulation, some viewers speculated that the individuals might have been part of a controlled operation, tasked with retrieving unidentified creatures that have long been discussed within certain speculative research circles. During a research expedition in the Red Sea, a marine team hauling in their nets discovered an unexpected and unsettling sight resting among their equipment. Lying motionless within the tangled gear was a figure that appeared strikingly similar to a mermaid, its body showing no clear signs of movement as the researchers tried to determine exactly what they had brought aboard. Some suggested that the creature might have belonged to an unknown species that normally avoids shallow waters and human contact. Others interpreted its stillness as something far more unusual, arguing that the condition of the body seemed inconsistent with known marine life. Whatever the reality behind the encounter may have been, the researchers kept the event private, allowing the moment to fade into rumor and adding another layer to the enduring mystery surrounding the sea. In 2018, a fisherman resting aboard his boat in the Grand Banks of Newfoundland noticed an unusual movement in the water nearby. A pale figure began rising toward the surface with remarkable smoothness, drawing his attention. As he quickly aimed his camera, the recording briefly captured what appeared to be the upper body of a mermaid emerging above the waterline, before the figure slowly slipped back beneath the surface. Rather than fleeing immediately, it appeared to approach the area calmly before disappearing again into the depths. The steady rise and controlled descent led the fishermen to believe that the figure was aware of its surroundings. Some have suggested that the region could lie along a hidden route occasionally used by mysterious ocean-dwelling beings that surface only when the sea becomes calm enough to do so unnoticed. During a quiet camping trip in Brazil, a camper named Elijah captured footage that transformed an otherwise peaceful outing into an unforgettable experience. While filming the lake, his camera recorded a pale figure drifting slowly across the water. The shape resembled that of a human, yet a long tail could be seen gliding beneath the surface as the figure moved forward. Brown blonde hair floated gently around its shoulders, giving the impression of a calm and effortless motion as it continued across the lake, seemingly unaware that anyone was observing. When the footage was later shared, some viewers noted that the creature's smooth and steady movement appeared deliberate, almost as though the motion had been practiced. Local fishermen added to the mystery by recalling old stories associated with the lake, tales describing strange beings believed to belong to another world. During a family visit to the Coral Sea in 2004, an ordinary moment of filming the ocean unexpectedly captured something the group did not fully understand until much later. As the camera recorded the surface of the water, a figure briefly rose upward with a smooth, gentle motion before slipping back beneath the waves. Only moments afterward, the shape appeared once more, the upper portion resembling the form of a human, while the lower half moved through the water like a powerful and flexible fin. After reviewing the recording at home and slowing the footage down, the movements appeared far more distinct than they had initially realized. The motion of the figure seemed to echo long-standing stories told in coastal regions about mysterious beings that surface only for brief moments before vanishing again into the sea. The creature's brief double appearance, followed by its swift retreat, led some viewers to speculate that it might have been something remarkably adept at remaining hidden from human observation. Venice, known for its crowded canals and constant flow of visitors, would seem an unlikely setting for anything out of the ordinary. Nevertheless, in 2004, a couple recorded footage of a strange figure resting on a concrete block near the water's edge. The being appeared calm and undisturbed, its tail gently moving back and forth as though it were basking in the warmth of the sunlight. The creature's relaxed posture and occasional tail movement resembled the behavior of certain marine animals that emerge from the water to rest or regulate their body temperature. While many observers argued that a creature like this would normally avoid crowded areas, the sighting in Venice suggested otherwise. Some have speculated that unusually low tides during that week may have drawn unfamiliar marine life closer to the canals, inadvertently bringing it into the presence of curious onlookers. In October 2025, an Indian fishing crew hauling in their catch experienced an unexpected and unsettling moment when their net suddenly loosened. In the brief confusion that followed, a figure shot upward from the water and snatched one of the falling fish with a swift and fluid motion. The recording appeared to show long white hair drifting behind a figure whose lower body seemed covered in scales. The entire event lasted no more than a second, yet the clarity of the moment was striking enough to leave the group stunned. Some ocean researchers have noted that India's deeper marine channels have long been associated with strange maritime stories, suggesting that unusual sightings may occur when disturbances in the depths briefly drive unknown creatures closer to the surface. On a remote stretch of Shaw Island, a group exploring the shoreline noticed an unusual shape partially buried beneath the sand. After carefully clearing the surrounding sediment, they uncovered a set of bones unlike anything they had previously encountered. The remains included a long spine that extended into a smooth, fin-like curve, along with a rib cage whose structure appeared strikingly similar to that of a human. Despite being located on a shoreline constantly exposed to waves and saltwater, the bones appeared unusually well preserved. Later observations from experts suggested that certain areas of sand along that coast contain pockets with very low oxygen levels, creating conditions that can slow decomposition and protect organic remains. If such conditions were present at the site, the skeleton could have remained buried for centuries, preserved beneath the sand until shifting tides eventually revealed it. In 2012, Hurricane Sandy dramatically reshaped sections of the coastline, leaving behind a series of unusual and unpredictable discoveries. After the storm had passed, reports emerged that a strange figure had washed ashore on a beach. The body appeared to possess features that seemed partly human and partly reminiscent of a sea creature, which quickly drew the attention of those who encountered it. The remains looked heavily weathered, suggesting that the figure might have drifted through turbulent waters for an extended period before reaching land. Some observers speculated that sudden shifts in ocean temperatures, along with changing oxygen levels and powerful currents, could have weakened the creature long before the storm made landfall. Because no official investigation or expert confirmation was ever released, the incident remained unresolved, becoming yet another unexplained episode associated with the aftermath of the storm. While fishing in the South China Sea, a group of fishermen captured footage of an encounter in which a massive figure slowly rose near the vessel, drawing their immediate attention. The creature's back appeared to be covered with long red hair that flowed through the water as it moved, creating an eerie and striking sight. According to the fishermen, the creature seemed to react to their movements, behaving as though it was aware of the activity taking place on the boat. Its considerable size led some observers to speculate that it might inhabit deeper regions of the ocean, where extreme pressure and darkness influence the evolution of marine life in ways that remain poorly understood. The vivid red hair, which remained visible even in the dim light of the water, further distinguished the sighting from anything typically associated with known sea creatures. In 2015, a discovery at a beach drew renewed attention to long-standing stories about mysterious sea beings said to lose their strength near the surface. After the waves receded along the shoreline, a strange figure was reportedly found washed up on the sand. The body displayed features that appeared strikingly human, yet it also possessed a tail that seemed naturally formed rather than artificially created. Observers noted that the skin looked softened and weathered, as though the figure had spent an extended period drifting through the water. Some individuals proposed that strong underwater disturbances or powerful currents during the previous night might have forced the creature upward, eventually carrying it onto the beach. The location of the discovery, which corresponded closely with regional folklore about mysterious marine beings, left many witnesses uncertain whether the event represented a genuine discovery or simply another story that blurred the boundary between myth and reality. In 2007, a professional diver in Australia recorded an encounter. The figure appeared to have a human-like torso, accompanied by a long tail that moved upward with smooth and deliberate control. The sight lasted for only a brief moment before the figure drifted out of view, leaving the diver with little more than a fleeting recording. Despite these repeated visits, the waters remained undisturbed, and no similar movement appeared again. When the short clip was reviewed, observers noted that the motion did not resemble mechanical movement or obvious visual manipulation. Because of this, some viewers speculated that the creature may have surfaced out of simple curiosity before quietly retreating to deeper waters. The brief recording, therefore, remains a puzzling fragment, offering what appears to be only a fleeting glimpse of something the ocean rarely reveals. Visitors are typically drawn to Cumberland Falls in Kentucky for its famous glowing mist. Yet in 2019, the attention of onlookers reportedly shifted to something far more unusual. Several people claim to have seen a pale, mermaid-like figure drifting along the flowing water near the falls. For several minutes, the figure remained near the surface, gliding smoothly with the flow before making subtle movements that suggested deliberate control. Because sightings of unusual creatures in freshwater environments are extremely rare, some observers speculated that the being might belong to a type of aquatic life adapted to rivers rather than the open ocean. Eventually, the figure drifted past the rocks and gradually disappeared into the lower stretch of the river, leaving behind little more than speculation and unanswered questions. Whether these videos show clever illusions, misunderstood marine animals, or something we simply haven't identified yet, they remind us how powerful the mysteries of the sea can be. For centuries, sailors and coastal communities have shared stories about beings that live beneath the waves, and those tales continue to inspire new sightings and debates even today. What do you think? Have people really encountered mermaids, or are these sightings just clever tricks and natural explanations? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss our upcoming journeys. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video. A flash of light pierced the dense Amazon rainforest, crashing straight down before vanishing without a trace.
What is that? Look at the smoke!
What unfolded next has left witnesses stunned. A recovered clip, reportedly filmed during a geological survey flight in 1987, appears to show a perfectly round, dark object deep in the Amazon rainforest, captured through an airplane window. The crew stated that they observed a flash of light, and what they believed was a large object rising from the treetops, after which the plane's instruments malfunctioned and the footage cut to static. When a team later visited the reported coordinates, they described finding a circular clearing with scorched trees and no visible debris. What was that object? An alien craft, or some kind of technology we still don't understand? And why, even now, has no vegetation ever grown back in that spot? Also deep in the Amazon, a Brazilian pilot on a routine flight suddenly spotted something unusual. In the middle of the vast green canopy, an oval-shaped, mirror-bright object lay motionless in a forest clearing. Its reflection was so strong, it momentarily blinded the cockpit, like a bright light shining upward. Just a single metallic object, resting quietly in one of the most remote places on Earth. Then, within seconds, the object disappeared without warning or any visible cause. When the footage appeared online, many viewers expressed surprise and curiosity. Some suggested it might be hidden or cloaked, while others wondered if advanced technology was involved. Deep inside the dense, humid Amazon rainforest, a man unexpectedly captured footage that fascinated many online. While walking along a narrow trail covered in decaying leaves, he paused when he saw a dark metallic orb hovering in mid-air. It was perfectly round, like a sphere of metal, slowly drifting between the trees without making a sound. There was no wind, no birds, just complete silence. He quickly lifted his camera, trying to keep his hand steady, but the cold reflection on the orb's surface made him feel as if something was watching back. Within seconds, the object glided away and vanished into the jungle, leaving no trace. That moment gave viewers chills. Was it simply an unidentified flying object, or something else passing silently by? Next came haunting footage, said to show a family fishing near the Amazon River, who allegedly captured a massive, unidentified craft tilted at the forest's edge, with thin smoke rising from its dark surface.
What is that? Look at the smoke!
As they appeared to approach, its scale seemed immense, several times larger than a bus, silent and black like burnt steel, accompanied by heavy breathing and rustling leaves, before the footage abruptly cut out. Hours later, the video reportedly disappeared from the internet, and the fate of the family and the object remains unknown. One thing is clear: there is still much we do not understand about the sky above us, and some believe this footage shows something never fully explained. In Parana, a small town in Goiás, Brazil, locals discovered unusual circular patterns on enormous rocks, with edges so smooth they seemed difficult to explain through natural processes. The discovery drew the attention of visitors and researchers, and images of the site soon spread online, sparking speculation and conspiracy theories that a UFO might have landed there unnoticed. To this day, no confirmed explanation exists, and the mysterious markings continue to puzzle those who see them. One case that attracted worldwide attention happened in 2008. The Turkish UFO video continues to spark debate among researchers. In the night sky, a large glowing craft moved slowly and smoothly, gliding across the atmosphere. Its outline was clear enough to see some of its outer structure. Experts who analyzed the footage found it authentic, with no signs of digital manipulation. If accurate, the video raises questions about its origin. Is it a human-made aircraft or something unexplained? An old Apollo 10 archive video has recently gone viral, sparking intense debate. The footage appears to show a large disc-shaped object on the moon's surface, and as the camera zooms in, a tall, slender, humanoid-like figure seems to move nearby. Because the figure does not resemble any astronaut suit associated with the mission, the clip quickly spread online, fueling widespread speculation and discussions about the possibility of an unidentified presence captured on camera. A video was recently released showing a triangular object floating silently in the night sky. It appeared completely motionless and emitted no sound, making it difficult to ignore. Its steady presence, suspended in the darkness, seemed unusual and hard to explain. Along its edges, purple lights flickered in a soft, steady pattern, clearly outlining the triangle's silhouette. The object did not shake, descend, or move forward. It simply hovered in place. Those who saw it were captivated and began questioning what it could be. Could it be an experimental drone, advanced military technology, or something else entirely? In 2018 in Alaska, several people reported seeing something unusual moving in the sky. It appeared as a bright, rotating light that changed direction slowly and smoothly, unlike typical aircraft. Its glow was so intense that it could be seen from kilometers away, moving with a steady and almost hypnotic rhythm. Locals began filming the phenomenon, hoping to capture clues that might help identify it. Some suggested it could be a drone, but its movement seemed different from most known devices. The object continued moving silently and changing direction with ease. The recording soon went viral, sparking debates about whether it might have been an experimental aircraft or another unidentified aerial phenomenon. A video recorded in broad daylight shows a strange metallic object gliding smoothly through the sky. People nearby quickly stopped and pointed their cameras upward to capture the unusual moment. The object moved fluidly, without visible noise or vibration. The footage soon attracted attention online. Thousands of users began analyzing it frame by frame, trying to understand what they were seeing. Some suggested it might be a drone, while others thought it could be an experimental aircraft, though no clear explanation emerged. The clarity of the video, the time of day, and the object's movement left many viewers puzzled, and the sighting continues to spark discussion online. A recent TikTok video has attracted global attention. It appears to show a large metallic-looking object floating silently above a Walmart parking lot with bright blue lights along its sides, while it remains steady throughout the recording. Viewers noted how natural the object appears while suspended in the air, though the short clip makes it difficult to determine exactly what it is. The clarity of the footage and the object's unusual movement helped the video spread quickly online, generating thousands of comments and theories. Some believe it could be a well-made prank or visual effect, while others speculate it might be an unidentified type of technology. The debate continues to grow on social media, making it one of the most talked about sightings of recent months. In Canada, several witnesses noticed something unusual in the sky. A long cylindrical object floated silently at a great height, prompting many people to take out their phones and record it. Its movement appeared steady and smooth, unlike most aircraft people are familiar with. Some suggested it might have been a drone test, while others noted that it moved very quietly and glided smoothly through the air. The object drifted calmly across the sky as onlookers watched in silence. Then, as suddenly as it had appeared, it gradually faded into the distance until it disappeared. The sighting left many people with unanswered questions about what they had seen. A TikTok video showing a bright light descending near a forest went viral, surpassing 20 million views. The intense light appeared to move downward at high speed before disappearing near the trees, leaving viewers puzzled. Days later, the video's creator visited the site and claimed the area had been cordoned off by officials. According to the video, official vehicles, tape, and personnel were seen restricting access, which added to the speculation online. No clear explanation was provided at the time, leading many people to question what might have happened there. Since then, theories, videos, and debates have spread widely across the internet. For some viewers, the lack of public information has only added to the mystery surrounding what may have fallen in the forest. A clear video recorded in Curitiba, Brazil, shows a saucer-shaped object floating silently over the city. The image is so clear that it leaves no room for doubt. The object remains suspended in the air without emitting any sound and shows no visible support. The scene generates an unsettling calm. The saucer doesn't vibrate, it doesn't rotate, and it doesn't move. It simply floats motionless, as if observing the city from above. The witnesses who recorded it remain silent, unable to comprehend what they were witnessing. After a few moments, the object begins to fade slowly until it disappears completely, leaving only the tranquil city below. The video went viral, and many still debate whether it was unknown technology or something far beyond our understanding. Another viral TikTok video shows a huge, saucer-shaped object slowly gliding near a windmill. It was filmed in broad daylight, making the details surprisingly clear. The windmill's blades continue to spin normally as the saucer floats alongside, maintaining an almost perfect distance. Its movement is smooth and deliberate, as if analyzing its surroundings. Witnesses remain silent, captivated by the strange synchronicity. The scene seems calm until the object enters the frame. The moment feels calm but unsettling, as if two worlds briefly intersected under the same sky before returning to normal. After a few seconds, the object moves away slowly, leaving only the spinning windmill and a mystery that the internet hasn't stopped debating. A passenger filming from an airplane window captured something unusual. Several circular objects appeared to be floating above the clouds, moving in a straight line and gliding smoothly across the sky while maintaining their formation. The movement looked so precise that it almost seemed coordinated. The passenger continued recording as the bright shapes kept roughly the same distance from each other before briefly disappearing into the clouds. They produced no noticeable sound and left no visible trail, only a faint reflection moving silently across the sky. The objects reappeared for a moment and then vanished from view. The video later went viral, leaving many viewers wondering whether they had seen unfamiliar technology or simply an unusual atmospheric sight.
No sé qué sea, chicos. Soñé que son casi las 5 de la mañana.
A nighttime video recorded in Mexico shows a mysterious object with bright lights blinking rhythmically beneath it. The witness quietly zooms in as the lights pulse in a steady pattern, hovering silently in the darkness. The clip quickly spread online, sparking debate as viewers wondered whether it captured unfamiliar technology or simply a clever trick, leaving more questions than answers. A clear daytime video recorded in Mexico shows an unidentified object moving slowly across the blue sky. It has no visible wings, leaves no noticeable trail, and produces no audible sound. The object appears to glide smoothly, changing direction only slightly as it moves. Its appearance has prompted curiosity online. Some viewers say it does not resemble common drones, balloons, or conventional aircraft seen from a distance. After a few seconds, the object gradually moves away until it disappears from view, leaving observers wondering what it might have been. The video quickly went viral, sparking debates about its possible origin. A short video circulated online, claiming to show a saucer-shaped object crashing in a frozen region near Russia. The footage appeared to show unusual marks in the snow, as if something had slid across the surface before stopping. Many viewers found the scene intriguing and debated whether the clip was real or staged. After some time, the video became harder to find on several platforms, with some users reporting that links stopped working or uploads were removed. This led to further speculation online. Without a clear explanation, some viewers continue searching for archived copies of the clip, considering it one of the more unusual viral videos discussed in recent years. A video shared online shows a bright object falling from the night sky, leaving a luminous trail behind it. The recording ends with what appears to be a small flash of light as the object reaches the ground. Some viewers online nicknamed it the downed UFO video. The footage spread quickly, sparking debate about what might have been recorded. Some people suggest it could be space debris or a meteor entering the atmosphere, while others believe it may show something less easily explained. The unusual movement and bright light have kept viewers curious, and many continue to discuss possible explanations while waiting for more information. Several reports came from Washington, D.C. about an unusual incident that occurred on October 13, 2000. Witnesses said they saw a large, bright object fall from the sky, leaving a smoky trail as it moved through the air. Because the phenomenon was visible to many people, several bystanders began recording. Later that night, police temporarily blocked several streets in the area. A man posted a video on TikTok while walking nearby, showing flashing lights, police vehicles, and people gathered as they tried to understand what had happened. The footage quickly spread online, leading to many different theories. Some viewers suggested it could have been space debris or a meteor, while others believed it might have been something less easily explained. Even today, the event continues to spark discussion about what may have fallen that night. A man hiking in the hills at night captured an unusual sight on camera. A fast-moving light crossed the dark sky, and moments later, a small puff of smoke appeared before the object seemed to drop toward the ground. The brief recording shows the light fading into the distance, leaving the witness and many viewers wondering what might have fallen from the sky. Then, in just a few split seconds, a mysterious object shot past the window of a commercial plane, so fast the human eye could barely register it. When zoomed in, letters appeared on its side, TRUF. It is unclear whether this was a code, a random marking, or something else. The clip went viral, with viewers divided. Some considered it evidence of an unidentified object, while others remained skeptical. Analysts noted the object's movement did not match any known aircraft. Aviation experts pointed out that the object's speed would typically cause a sonic boom if it were a conventional aircraft. Yet, passengers reported no sound. The letters have inspired various theories, from possible communication attempts to secret project codes. In January 2025, social media reacted strongly to reports of an object crash in Glasgow, Scotland. New footage showed a metallic rim where the object struck the ground. Comments included various theories, some suggesting a government cover-up. The crash site has been sealed off for months with no official explanation or media updates. access is restricted and no statements have been made. Questions remain about what fell from the sky over Scotland, whether it was a lost satellite or an unknown object. Residents reported electromagnetic disturbances after the incident, such as flickering streetlights, car alarms activating randomly, and some electronic devices failing. The lack of official information has led to ongoing public curiosity and speculation. During a regular training flight, an F-35 fighter jet pilot recorded an unusual object. Outside the cockpit, a glowing capsule-shaped object resembling a large tic-tac appeared floating at the same altitude, moving slowly beside the jet. The pilot kept the camera steady as the object drifted closer. Suddenly, it shot straight upward at high speed and vanished quickly. There were no radar anomalies or radio signals detected, only the sound of the pilot's breathing and the open sky. The footage spread rapidly on social media, sparking debate. Some suggested it might be alien technology, while others thought it could be part of a classified military project. Whatever the explanation, many agreed the object's movement was unlike anything usually seen. If you were in the cockpit, would you have dared to look directly at it? The scene was captured on a calm night near the border between Brazil and Uruguay, close to the rural area of Santa Vitória do Palmar. A single light appeared in the dark sky, floating quietly without sound. Then suddenly, it split into two parts, each moving in a different direction. Both lights traveled at the same steady speed, side by side through the clouds, as if guided by something unseen. The person filming said they were recording the small town below when they noticed the object dividing above. The clip quickly spread across South America, with many UFO researchers calling it the energy split phenomenon, a rare moment captured with stunning clarity. Some scientists suggested it could be a plasma effect in the ionosphere, while others see it as unexplained aerial activity. The footage ends with a metallic orb hovering quietly in midair, slow, steady, and perfectly still. Some viewers believe it could be evidence of an extraterrestrial encounter, though this has not been verified. According to publicly available reports, the clip was filmed in Mexico on December 13, 2020, when a strange glowing sphere appeared in the sky, before vanishing into the jungle canopy. Its origin remains unknown, and while there were reports of restricted access in the area shortly after the sighting, no official explanation was provided. On September 24, 2025, a man filming from his New York City apartment reportedly recorded a distant glowing object that appeared to hover silently, as smaller lights seemed to drop from beneath it. The footage, clear enough to show the shapes, left viewers puzzled and sparked online debate, as people replayed the short clip in search of overlooked details. In the dark woods, a tall, thin figure with glowing eyes was reportedly captured on camera, standing still with an elongated metallic appearance. The person filming stated there was no wind, movement, or anyone else present. When they returned the next morning, no visible traces remained, including footprints or damage. Some paranormal researchers have speculated that the figure could represent a brief, unexplained phenomenon, though no scientific explanation has been confirmed. What do you think? Leave your thoughts in the comments, because whatever lies hidden in the Amazon jungle may not be from this world. Subscribe for more unbelievable UFO encounters being uncovered across the planet. The Congo River Basin is one of the most inaccessible environments on Earth. More than 1.5 million square miles of dense tropical rainforest, swamp rivers, and floodplains stretch across 6 countries in Central Africa. This is a place where new species are regularly discovered, where local people tell stories about creatures that science does not recognize, where the boundary between myth and undocumented reality becomes blurred. And for decades, a story about a giant snake 50 feet long, massive like a tree trunk, capable of swallowing crocodiles, moving through the water like a creature from the age of dinosaurs from the Congo, has refused to disappear despite scientific dismissal. Cryptozoologists believe it, herpetologists reject it, and the debate has lasted for more than 60 years with no end in sight. Until now, new evidence has emerged suggesting that the giant Congo snake is not only real, but has been hiding in plain sight. In August 1959, Belgian helicopter pilot and World War II veteran Remy van Lierde was flying over the skies of the Congo when he spotted an unbelievably enormous snake. Van Lierde described it as approximately 50 feet long, with a head as large as that of a big horse. The head itself was about 2 feet wide and 3 feet long, with a large triangular jaw structure. Its coloration was dark greenish-brown on top, with a distinctly white or light-colored belly. Van Lierde made 4 to 6 circles around the area, flying at different altitudes to obtain the best possible observation. The most striking detail reported by the crew was the animal's behavior. When the helicopter descended to about 150 feet for a closer look, the snake reportedly raised itself upright, lifting roughly 1/3 of the front part of its body about 10 feet off the ground, in a powerful posture directed toward the aircraft. Van Lierde later remarked that the display was so aggressive that he felt it might have attacked the helicopter if it had been within reach, prompting him to stop the observation. Van Lierde photographed it, and 3 others also saw the snake: photographer Kint, Colonel Roger Geisen, and paratrooper Major de Beffy. The story and the photograph attracted considerable attention, especially after it became famous through the television program Arthur C. Clarke's Mysterious World. Many people regarded Van Lierde, a highly decorated senior member of the Belgian military, as a credible witness. Of course, the photograph also sparked years of debate about whether it truly depicts a giant snake. Researchers specializing in reptiles and amphibians pointed out that no modern snake species reaches a length of 50 feet. The largest reliably measured snake is the reticulated python of Southeast Asia, which reaches a maximum length of about 23 feet, and even those measurements are considered the extreme limit of what is believed to be possible. A snake measuring 50 feet would be twice that size. It would represent a body size far beyond any confirmed specimen and would require a complete reassessment of our understanding of snake biology, metabolism, and the growth limits of vertebrates. But Van Lierde never backed down. Until his death, he maintained that what he saw was real, that his estimates were as accurate as possible under the circumstances, and that the scientific community dismissed his account due to an incomplete understanding of the creatures living in the most remote regions of Africa. Enter the number 1 if you believe this giant Congo python is real. And get ready, because next is another shocking piece of evidence. Shortly after the 1959 incident, a colonial doctor named Georges Bonnever obtained prints of adjutant Kint's photographs and passed them to the famous cryptozoologist Bernard Heuvelmans. But Bonnever did not stop there. He was so intrigued by the case that he hired a helicopter and returned to the coordinates where the snake had been sighted. According to historical records preserved in the Heuvelmans archive in Lausanne, Switzerland, Bonnever captured color footage of the specific clearing and the surrounding wildlife. Heuvelmans noted that the footage showed antelope, hippopotamuses, and at least 1 forest elephant in the area. This is significant because it provides a biological reference point for the scale of the environment. If you can see a forest elephant in the same clearing where the snake was photographed, you have a direct size comparison.
But that footage was never digitized. It was never released to the public. This makes it one of the biggest unsolved mysteries in this already enigmatic story. To understand why a 50-foot snake might exist in the Congo while no such animal has been confirmed anywhere else on Earth, you need to understand what makes the Congo River Basin truly different from anywhere else on the planet. The Congo River system drains a basin covering more than 1.5 million square miles. It is the second largest river system in the world by water discharge. For millions of years, while other tropical forests were fragmented by ice ages and desertification, the Congo Basin maintained a stable environment with high temperatures and consistent rainfall. Paleontologists use what is known as the refuge hypothesis to explain why some ancient lineages survive in isolated regions while becoming extinct elsewhere. During the Quaternary period, the Congo forests experienced significant contraction, but critical refuges remained intact. These areas provided continuous habitats for species that would otherwise have disappeared, allowing what scientists call living fossils to survive into the modern era. The numbers are remarkable. The Congo Basin is home to about 1/5 of all species on Earth, more than 10,000 plant species, more than 400 mammal species, more than 700 fish species. And in just the past decade, scientists have discovered at least 742 new species in the region, including air-breathing catfish, a new species of cobra, and a previously unknown primate called the lasula, which was not formally described until 2013. Think about that. A large primate species, a monkey, remained hidden from science until 2013 in a region humans have explored for centuries. If a primate can remain hidden that effectively, what else might still be waiting to be discovered out there? In fact, paleontologists know that enormous snakes once existed on Earth in the past. In 2009, deep inside the Cerrejón coal mine in Colombia, a team of paleontologists made one of the most extraordinary discoveries in the history of vertebrate biology. They found fossilized vertebrae of a snake so large that when the bones were first measured, some members of the team initially thought they had made a calculation error. But that was not the case. The creature was named Titanoboa cerrejonensis. Based on the size and structure of the vertebrae, researchers estimated that Titanoboa measured between 42 and 50 feet long and weighed about 2,500 pounds. For comparison, the largest anaconda ever reliably recorded measured about 28 feet in length and weighed roughly 500 pounds. This means Titanoboa was nearly twice as long and 5 times heavier than the largest confirmed anaconda. Think about that for a moment. This was a real animal. It once lived on this earth. Its bones are now displayed in museums. Its size is approximately the same as the animal Colonel Van Lierde reported seeing over the Congo River in 1959. The discovery of Titanoboa did not just confirm that giant snakes once existed. It also told us something profound about the conditions required to produce them. Paleontologists calculated that Titanoboa lived in an environment with a mean annual temperature of between 86 and 93 degrees Fahrenheit. This is because cold-blooded animals like snakes rely on external heat to power their metabolism, and the larger the animal, the more heat it requires to function. But here is what makes the story even more interesting. In 2024, researchers described another prehistoric giant snake called Vasuki indicus, discovered in a coal mine in India. Vasuki is estimated to have measured between 36 and 50 feet long and weighed around 2,200 pounds. And unlike Titanoboa, which was primarily aquatic, Vasuki appears to have been a land-dwelling snake. It moved across land. It supported its body weight using specialized vertebrae with broad and robust neural spines that allowed the attachment of large muscles. This is extremely important for the Congo snake case. One of the common objections to Van Lierde's account is that a snake of such size could not raise itself off the ground the way he described. The discovery of Vasuki demonstrates that a 50-foot snake could, in fact, support its body weight on land, and could theoretically perform the exact upright defensive posture that Van Lierde and his team witnessed. The fossils do not merely suggest that giant snakes are possible, they confirm their existence, their ability to move on land, and the types of behavior described in the 1959 encounter. Now let us address the most serious scientific objection to the Congo snake, because it is a legitimate one, and it deserves a real answer. The objection goes like this. Modern ambient temperatures in the Congo Basin average around 79 degrees Fahrenheit. Titanoboa required temperatures of at least 86 degrees Fahrenheit to sustain its metabolism. Therefore, a Titanoboa-sized snake could not survive in the modern Congo because the environment is simply not warm enough. This is a reasonable argument, but it has several important weaknesses. First, the Likawala swamp system is not a uniform environment. It contains localized microclimates, particularly sun-exposed swamp clearings and thermally stable peat systems that can maintain significantly higher temperatures than the regional average. A snake that spends most of its time in these thermal hotspots could potentially maintain the metabolic activity it needs. Second, modern anacondas already reach 28 feet in environments that are occasionally cooler than the temperatures Titanoboa required. This suggests that the metabolic ceiling for giant snakes is more flexible than the original models assumed. Third, and perhaps most importantly, many reptile species exhibit what biologists call indeterminate growth. Unlike mammals, which stop growing after reaching adulthood, many snakes continue to grow slowly throughout their entire lives. Furthermore, many snake species do not undergo biological aging in the same way humans do. Their reproductive and biological functions do not naturally degrade with time. What this means is that a 50-foot snake in the Congo may not represent a separate species at all. It may be an extraordinarily old individual of an existing species, such as the African rock python, that has survived long enough in a protected environment with no predators and abundant food to reach sizes that would normally be impossible. Now let us talk about food. Because a 2,500-pound predator needs to eat. Using standard metabolic formulas for reptiles, a snake of this size would require approximately 6,500 calories per day. That sounds like a lot, but here is the key difference between snakes and mammals. Snakes do not eat every day. They eat episodically, consuming enormous meals and then entering extended periods of metabolic rest. A single juvenile forest elephant weighing approximately 4,400 pounds could provide nearly 4 million calories. That means a 50-foot snake would only need to successfully hunt one major prey item every 12 to 18 months to survive comfortably. Between feedings, the snake would remain in a state of semi-torpor, hidden in deep burrows or submerged underwater, which explains perfectly why these animals are so rarely seen even in areas where they may actually live. The Congo Basin provides exactly the prey base this animal would need. Forest elephants weighing between 2 and 4 tons live in small family units throughout the basin. The Bongo antelope, the largest forest antelope in Africa, weighs up to 900 pounds and lives a solitary existence in dense undergrowth, making it an ideal target for an ambush predator. Western lowland gorillas, with populations of over 125,000 individuals, have been discovered in remote swamp regions. Giant warthogs are common throughout the savanna forest mosaic of the Katanga region. This is not a food desert. This is one of the richest prey environments on the planet. In fact, the 1959 Van Leerd sighting is not an isolated case. It is part of a much larger body of evidence stretching back more than a century and coming from many different sources, ranging from indigenous communities to European explorers and colonial administrators. Indigenous groups in the Kasai and Katanga regions of the Congo have their own names for this giant snake. They call it Pumina and Moma. The Pumina snake is described as measuring between 38 and 46 feet in length, with a dark back, a white belly, and a head width of about 30 inches. These descriptions closely match Van Leerd's account, including his comparison of its head to that of a large horse. Local records consistently describe Pumina as a terrestrial or semi-aquatic predator that hides in underground burrows or deep swamp channels, emerging mainly to hunt or bask in the sun. These are not vague monster stories. They are detailed and consistent accounts passed down through generations by people who live in that environment and have direct experience with wildlife. Indigenous ecological knowledge has repeatedly proven accurate in cases where Western science initially expressed skepticism. Another piece of evidence dates back to 1897, when anthropologist and explorer Mary Kingsley recorded the presence of enormous pythons exceeding 40 feet in her classic work, Travels in West Africa. In Calabar, Nigeria, she was shown the remains of a python that had been brought to a local missionary. The specimen reportedly stretched the entire length of a church veranda and extended beyond it. Kingsley, a meticulous researcher who provided specimens to the British Museum, wrote that people at home always doubt large measurements, but those who live in the wilderness do not. She stated that the python must certainly have been over 40 feet long and that she had no doubt about it. About 110 miles northwest of Kamina Air Base, a man named Michael Vermeersch reportedly encountered a giant snake in a clearing. He described the creature as so enormous that he fled the area in terror before he could assess it in detail. This independent report from the same geographic region as Van Leer's sighting suggests not a single unusual individual, but a population of large predators regularly inhabiting the area. There is also an interesting connection to another famous Congo mystery. The legendary creature Mokele Mbembe is often described as a long-necked ancient aquatic creature living in the Likawala swamps, and many researchers have suggested it might be a surviving dinosaur. But some reptile researchers have proposed another explanation. Many sightings of Mokele Mbembe involve only a long, dark neck rising several feet above the water. This behavior is common in many modern snake species. What if Mokele Mbembe is not a dinosaur, but an unknown species of snake of exceptional size swimming with its head raised above the water? At this point, you might ask a reasonable question. If this animal exists, why has science not found it yet? Why do we not have a body, skin, or a clear photograph taken with modern equipment? The answer depends on three factors: the scale of the environment, the behavior of the animal, and the practical limitations of scientific research in one of the most politically unstable regions on Earth. The Congo Basin covers more than 1.5 million square miles. The Likawala swamps alone span about 66,000 square miles of permanently flooded forest, where the average height of vegetation is about 6 feet, and the forest canopy can reach up to 164 feet. Satellite imagery is almost useless for detecting animals on the ground beneath that canopy. Rivers in the region can reach depths greater than 650 feet, creating vast space for large aquatic animals to remain completely hidden. Some researchers estimate that giant pythons might live at densities of only 1 or 2 individuals per 100 square miles in suitable habitats. In an area as vast as the Congo Basin, a population of only a few thousand individuals scattered across millions of square miles of forest and swamp would be almost invisible to science, unless searches were conducted at exactly the right place, at exactly the right time, and using exactly the right methods. Additionally, these snakes appear to be primarily nocturnal and semi-aquatic, spending daylight hours hidden in dense vegetation or submerged in murky water. They occasionally bask in the sun, but not frequently. And between major feeding events, which may occur only once every 12 to 18 months, they have very little reason to move. The political situation in the Democratic Republic of the Congo has also made systematic zoological surveys nearly impossible for much of the past century. Conflict zones, infrastructure limitations, and logistical challenges have prevented the long-term, well-funded scientific expeditions that would be necessary to document a large animal that exists at low density and is extremely difficult to encounter. The discovery of a 50-foot python would also raise urgent conservation concerns. Such a species would likely have a limited range within one of the most threatened ecosystems on Earth and could face pressures that might push it toward extinction even before it is formally described. The Congo Basin is experiencing rapid deforestation, mining expansion, and agricultural development. Although the most remote swamp forests where giant pythons might live are currently protected by their inaccessibility, infrastructure development and resource extraction are gradually pushing into areas that were previously unreachable. Roads are being built. Mining permits are being issued. The wilderness buffer that has protected this animal for thousands of years is shrinking. Hunting is also a concern. Large pythons have been killed across Africa because they are considered dangerous to humans and livestock, and also for their skins, which are extremely valuable in the illegal wildlife trade. A python skin measuring 50 feet would be extraordinarily valuable, creating strong incentives for targeted hunting if the species became widely known and its location identified. The moment the animal is confirmed, it could immediately become the most hunted creature on Earth. Climate change adds another layer of risk. Even small changes in temperature and rainfall can affect the wetland habitats these snakes depend on.
The Congo Basin is projected to experience increasing drought and shifts in flooding patterns in the coming decades, which could reduce both habitat and prey populations. The cruel irony is that this animal could face extinction before it is even officially described by science. We may lose it before we ever find it. So where does all of this leave us? Colonel Remy van Leerd was a man of extraordinary professional credibility. He was a decorated war hero, a test pilot, and a senior military officer whose entire career depended on precise observation and accurate reporting. He saw something unusual in the skies over the Congo in August 1959 and described it consistently and in detail until the day he died. 3 other trained military professionals saw it with him. A photograph was taken, and forensic analysis suggests the object measured between 39 and 46 feet when compared with known landmarks. Fossils prove that snakes of this size once existed on Earth. Titanoboa and Vasuki indicus demonstrate that a vertebrate skeleton can support a body 50 feet long, that such an animal could move on land, and that it could perform the defensive behaviors van Leerd described. The Congo Basin remains one of the few environments on Earth where the temperature stability, abundant food supply, and ecological isolation necessary to sustain such a population may still exist. Indigenous communities have described this animal for generations with details that match the 1959 description with remarkable accuracy. Technically, the case of the Congo giant snake remains inconclusive without a physical specimen. However, the evidence is strong enough and the witness testimony credible enough to move the creature out of the category of pure myth and into the realm of genuine biological mystery. The green heart of Africa remains one of the last places on Earth where the rules of the ancient world may still apply. Hidden beneath dense forest canopies and within a swamp system that modern science has barely begun to explore. Colonel van Leerd was not insane. He was not lying. He was not mistaken. He saw something real. And somewhere out there, in the dark waters and dense forests of the Congo Basin, it is still waiting to be found. If this video made you see the natural world in a different way, leave a comment below and tell me what you think. Do you believe the Congo giant snake is real? Don't forget to hit the bell, share it with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already.
This is the greatest mystery in modern aviation history. On March 8, 2014, a Boeing 777 carrying 239 people took off normally from Kuala Lumpur International Airport and then vanished without a trace a short time later. Even many years after takeoff, the aircraft has still not been found, and everyone has been asking the same question: what happened to that plane? Was Flight MH370 abducted by aliens or swallowed by a black hole? Or was the plane secretly shot down over a military base? Today, nearly 12 years later, thanks to modern forensic technology, new data analysis, and a team of underwater robots, the mystery seems to have been solved. Flight MH370 departed from Kuala Lumpur on what was supposed to be a routine flight to Beijing. In the cockpit were the experienced 53-year-old captain Zahari Ahmad Shah and the young first officer Farik Abdul Hamid. Everything proceeded normally until the aircraft reached the boundary of Vietnamese airspace.
Good night, Malaysia 370.
With one final radio message, the plane officially handed off from Malaysian Air Traffic Control. Good night, Malaysia 373. And this is where the critical detail that investigators consider key evidence emerged. At the exact moment the aircraft left Malaysian airspace but had not yet made contact with Vietnamese Air Traffic Control, during a window of only 90 seconds, it happened. The transponder was manually switched off, making the aircraft invisible to civilian air traffic controllers. This could not have happened because of an accident or an onboard fire. It was a deliberate human action. Someone in the cockpit wanted to disappear during that brief blind window. What happened next can be reconstructed using military radar records. The Boeing 777 made a sharp turn, flew back into Malaysian airspace, and navigated precisely along the border between Thai and Malaysian airspace. Experts call this maneuver border skirting, in which a pilot flies exactly along the line between two national airspaces. By staying at the outer edge of both jurisdictions, the aircraft minimized the chance of military interception, because radar operators in each country could assume the unidentified signal belonged to the neighboring country. The plane was definitely being actively flown at that point. What deepens the mystery is a chilling forensic detail. A cell tower on Penang Island detected a signal from First Officer Farik Abdul Hamid's cell phone. No call was made, no data was transmitted, but the phone briefly handshook with the tower, and that handshake tells us something extraordinary. At the standard cruising altitude of 35,000 feet, the laws of physics governing mobile signal propagation make this kind of connection almost impossible. The aircraft would have been moving too fast and flying too high to establish a reliable link. For that signal to be detected, the plane would have had to descend significantly, possibly to somewhere between 5,000 and 12,000 feet above sea level. And Penang Island? That was Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah's hometown. Was it one final look at home? A tactical descent to avoid military radar? Please share your views and join the discussion in the comments section. Once all normal communication systems had been disabled, the aircraft should have disappeared completely. But it left behind a ghostly trail that investigators took years to learn how to decode. The Inmarsat satellite network was still receiving automatic signals from the aircraft's satellite data unit. Every hour, the ground station in Perth, Australia, sent a routine signal to the aircraft, and the aircraft responded. This exchange continued for 7 hours after the transponder stopped operating. Each handshake produced two important measurements. The first is called burst timing offset. This measures the round-trip travel time of the signal between the ground station, the satellite, and the aircraft. It told investigators how far the aircraft was from the satellite at any given moment. Plot those distances on a map, and you get a series of arcs. The final arc, recorded just before the signals went silent, is known as the seventh arc. It lies deep in the southern Indian Ocean. The second measurement is called burst frequency offset. This measures the Doppler shift of the signal, which changes depending on whether the aircraft is moving toward the satellite or away from it. The recorded values were fully consistent with a southbound route, ruling out any path toward Central Asia or the Middle East. But satellite data alone could not pinpoint the crash site. That is when a retired aerospace engineer named Richard Godfrey made a breakthrough. Godfrey developed a method using something called WSPR, short for Weak Signal Propagation Reporter. Amateur radio operators around the world continuously transmit low-power test signals that bounce off the ionosphere. When a large metal object, such as a Boeing 777, passes through one of these radio links, it causes a small but measurable disturbance in the signal. Godfrey identified 130 such disturbances, perfectly matching a flight path ending at the seventh arc. In effect, the method turned thousands of amateur radio transmissions into a global passive radar system, tracking an aircraft that had otherwise completely vanished. And this is where the evidence becomes extremely difficult to dispute. The flight path reconstructed from the WSPR data matches a route that had been rehearsed beforehand on Captain Zahari's home flight simulator. Forensic investigators recovered deleted data from that simulator. The deleted files contained a simulated flight into the southern Indian Ocean, programmed several weeks before the aircraft disappeared. The route passed through navigation points near the Andaman Islands at 10.2 degrees north and 90.2 degrees east, and ended with fuel exhaustion in one of the most remote stretches of ocean on Earth. The simulated fuel load was based on another flight, MH150, but the trajectory, waypoints, and final destination matched the actual path of MH370, with a level of accuracy that analysts described as statistically impossible to dismiss as coincidence. Someone had rehearsed this. Someone had planned it. And then someone carried it out. Tap the like button to let us know this content is making a difference. And if you're watching on your phone, be sure to press the hype button right below. For years, the waters of the southern Indian Ocean kept their secret. Then in July 2015, a piece of the aircraft washed ashore on Reunion Island, a French territory in the Indian Ocean, about 3,700 miles west of the search area. It was a flaperon, a movable surface on the trailing edge of the right wing. And the story it told was not a comforting one. Forensic engineers closely examined the edges of the flaperon. They found jagged damage caused by massive impact forces along the trailing edge. This was not the type of damage normally seen when an aircraft gently glides onto water. This was the kind of damage caused by extreme force, by a part of the plane being torn away at high speed. But the most important detail was not the damage itself. It was the position of the flaps. On a commercial aircraft, if pilots attempt an emergency water landing, the flaps are extended. Extending the flaps increases lift and drag, slows the aircraft down, and gives it the best possible chance of surviving contact with the water. When investigators analyzed the flaperon and a separate outboard flap found in Mauritius, they discovered that both pieces had separated from the plane while the flaps were in the retracted position. No one had intended to land that plane. Since 2015, more than 30 pieces of debris have washed ashore on islands along the coasts of East Africa and the Indian Ocean. Each piece added another stroke to the overall picture. One piece found in Madagascar in 2024, labeled No Step 2, came from the right horizontal stabilizer. Its honeycomb composite structure had shattered, not bent, not cracked, but shattered. This pattern of destruction matches a high-speed, high-energy impact, not a controlled ditching. An interior floor panel found in Madagascar showed fractured multi-layer construction, evidence that the main cabin had broken apart under enormous force. Put together, all of this leads to an unavoidable conclusion. Flight MH370 did not glide onto the sea. It did not ditch on the ocean. It struck the water in a high-speed, uncontrolled spiral dive, most likely after both engines flamed out following 7 hours of fuel exhaustion. The final two satellite signals, recorded 8 seconds apart, showed a sudden and dramatic frequency shift consistent with a rapid descent without engine power. 239 people. Not one survived. And not a single person on board knew what was happening until it was over. But why did the crash happen? For many years, the investigation was divided into two camps. The first supported the hypoxia theory, which argued that a technical failure such as depressurization caused everyone on board to lose consciousness, turning the aircraft into a ghost flight that continued on autopilot until it ran out of fuel. The Australian Transport Safety Bureau supported this theory as the most likely scenario in the absence of other evidence. The second camp supported the deliberate action theory, which argued that a pilot, most likely Captain Zahari, intentionally took control of the aircraft. By 2026, the evidence had shifted strongly toward deliberate action. Analysts believe the pilot used his own oxygen supply, which lasts significantly longer than passenger masks, to depressurize the cabin and quickly incapacitate the crew and passengers. He then flew the aircraft to a predetermined vanishing point in the most remote part of the Indian Ocean. Outside the official investigation, MH370 has generated a vast underground archive of theories built by aviation enthusiasts, online forums, and independent researchers. One theory that still persists claims the aircraft may have been taken over through a hidden or external control system. This idea is often linked to earlier patents for anti-hijacking technology designed to override cockpit commands in emergencies. Those patents are real. However, what has never been proven is that such a system was installed on MH370, tail number 9MMRO. Other internet theories are even less grounded.
One Reddit theory claimed that great white sharks tracked by GPS gathered in the southern Indian Ocean in late March 2014 because they were reacting to human remains in the water. Marine science offers a much simpler explanation. Shark movement is influenced by migration, prey, and environmental conditions, making this only an interesting coincidence rather than usable evidence. The most credible unofficial clues came from satellite imagery. Thailand's Theos satellite detected around 300 floating objects in the search area on March 24, 2014, raising hopes that a debris field had been found. But no confirmed debris was ever recovered from that location.
So where does that leave the search today? Still in the southern Indian Ocean, still narrowed, but not finished. The original multinational underwater search led by Malaysia, Australia, and China focused on a vast area based on Inmarsat analysis and ultimately covered around 120,000 square kilometers of seabed without locating the wreckage. In 2022, ATSB also reported that a later Geoscience Australia review of sonar imagery made it highly unlikely that an aircraft debris field lay within the reviewed search area. So the search did not fail for lack of effort. It failed because the target zone is immense, the terrain is punishing, and underwater search is one of the harshest forms of forensic work humans attempt. That is why the recent Ocean Infinity effort mattered so much. Malaysia agreed to a renewed no-find, no-fee arrangement, under which Ocean Infinity would be paid only if substantial wreckage was found. The approved area was about 15,000 square kilometers, based on improved analysis and a refined search hypothesis. According to AP and Reuters reporting, Ocean Infinity's 2025 to 2026 operation surveyed about 7,571 square kilometers in 2 phases. But by March 2026, Malaysian authorities said it had produced no confirmed wreckage. Families of the victims immediately called for the work to continue. The grief, after all these years, has not become quieter. It has become heavier. Ocean Infinity itself said that since first embarking on the mission in 2018, the company had spent 151 days at sea and mapped more than 140,000 square kilometers of seafloor. Its CEO, Oliver Plunkett, said the precision and speed of the latest search would have been unimaginable in 2018 and emphasized one crucial point. If nothing else, the company could say with confidence that MH370 is not where they looked. In a mystery like this, even negative knowledge matters. Every eliminated square of seabed makes the silence more specific. And the technology really is extraordinary. The Hugin 6000 autonomous underwater vehicle, one of the flagship tools used in modern deep ocean search, is rated to depths of 6,000 meters. It can carry synthetic aperture sonar, multi-beam echo sounders, optical cameras, laser profilers, sub-bottom profilers, and advanced navigation systems. Kongsberg specifications describe endurance of roughly 65 to 76 hours at 3 knots with all sensors running. Its HIAS 1032 synthetic aperture sonar can generate imagery with about 5 by 5 centimeter resolution and cover roughly 2 to 2.5 square kilometers per hour. That is not science fiction. That is what is now hunting for a lost airliner in the abyss. But even with such advanced robotic capabilities, the seafloor remains a formidable adversary. The southern Indian Ocean is not only remote, but also geologically harsh. The search area lies near a geological formation known as Broken Ridge, an underwater mountain range stretching about 745 miles and featuring terrain as rugged as the Alps. To its south is a massive steep cliff called the Diamantina Escarpment, an escarpment nearly 10,000 feet high. The seafloor in this region is a maze of extinct volcanoes, deep canyons, and sediment drifts that can extend up to 93 miles, potentially burying debris under several feet of mud. Search teams are not simply looking for an airplane. They're trying to distinguish the remains of a shattered Boeing 777 from the geology of an alien landscape several kilometers beneath the surface. That is why, 12 years later, the ocean may still be keeping its secret. Not because the evidence points nowhere, but because somewhere along this arc, there remains an enormous expanse of ocean. So let us bring all of this together. We know MH370 took off from Kuala Lumpur at 12:42 a.m. local time on March 8, 2014, bound for Beijing with 239 people on board. We know the last radio transmission was "Good night Malaysian 370." We know the transponder signal was lost at 17:21:13 UTC, and the official report indicates the transponder had been functioning normally up to that point, with no reported failure. We know military radar later showed the aircraft turning back across Malaysia and continuing on a radically altered path. We know a phone linked to the first officer briefly registered with a Penang tower during that phase, though the significance of that signal remains limited and disputed. We know Inmarsat satellite handshakes continued for hours and that ATSB analysis found the aircraft most likely flew south into the southern Indian Ocean. We know the final 00.19 UTC satellite event is consistent with a rapid descent after a probable SATCOM power interruption, possibly linked to fuel exhaustion and APU restart. We know confirmed debris from MH370 washed ashore across the western Indian Ocean, and forensic analysis indicates the aircraft was not configured for a normal ditching. And we know that despite renewed robotic searches, the main wreckage still has not been recovered. What we do not know is the exact chain of human decisions inside the cockpit. That is the darkest part of the story. The evidence can sketch the motion of the aircraft. It can constrain the route. It can tell us about systems, debris, signal timing, and probable descent. But without the recorders, it cannot give us the final conversation. It cannot tell us what was said when the plane turned west. It cannot tell us whether the passengers knew. It cannot tell us whether the last hours were quiet, confused, or deliberate in every detail. And that is why MH370 still feels less like an accident report than a wound in the modern world. Because in an age when we are told everything is tracked, stored, logged, and searchable, one wide-body airliner still escaped into darkness. Not completely, not magically, but enough to remind us that human intention and planetary scale can still defeat technology for a very long time. The mystery of MH370 is not that there is no evidence. The mystery is that the evidence points so strongly toward a terrible answer, and yet the one thing that could confirm it beyond argument, the wreckage field, the black boxes, the final coordinates, still lies somewhere beyond our reach. For now. But not forever. The southern Indian Ocean is vast, the seafloor is cruel, and time has already swallowed 12 years. Yet the field of possibilities has narrowed. The search tools are better. The maps are better. The eliminated areas matter. The families are still demanding answers. And a Boeing 777 is not a needle. It is a machine the size of a building. If the search continues long enough, and if the refined hypotheses are close enough, the ocean may still be forced to give it back. When that day comes, MH370 will stop being the world's greatest aviation mystery and become something else. The world's most delayed revelation. Until then, what remains is this. Not aliens, not wormholes, not a vanishing into nothing. A real aircraft, a real route change, a real trail of satellite evidence, a real scattering of debris, a real ending somewhere in the southern Indian Ocean. And somewhere beneath that water, in darkness no human eye has yet reached,
The final answer is still waiting. If this video gave you a clearer picture of what happened, share it with someone who has been following this story. There are families out there who have spent 12 years without answers, and the more people understand what the evidence actually shows, the more pressure there is to keep searching. Drop a comment below and tell me this. Do you think the wreckage will be found in the next search?
Truly fascinating, highly unusual, and at times shockingly strange. Some animals stand out for having some of the weirdest ways of giving birth on Earth. Stay with us, because these incredible animal births will show you that life on our planet is truly a miracle. An Irish sport horse mare named Destiny, based in Ireland, she successfully delivered 2 sets of twin foals in separate pregnancies. In horses, twin pregnancies are not only uncommon, occurring in roughly 1 in 10,000 cases, but they are also typically dangerous, often resulting in the loss of one or both foals due to complications during gestation or birth. What made Destiny's case even more remarkable is that in both pregnancies, routine ultrasound scans detected only a single fetus, meaning the twin births came as a surprise to her caretakers. Despite the odds, all 4 foals were born alive and reported to be healthy, which is highly unusual given the risks associated with equine twin pregnancies. The likelihood of a mare producing twins twice is estimated to be around 1 in a million, placing Destiny among the rarest documented cases. See what happens when millions of creatures reproduce all at once? Red crabs are literally baby-making machines. Particularly the Christmas Island red crab are known for their massive annual migration to the coast to reproduce. During this event, millions of crabs travel from inland forests to the shoreline. Males dig burrows and mate with females inside them, fertilizing the eggs during the process. After mating, the females carry thousands, sometimes up to 100,000, fertilized eggs beneath their abdomen for several weeks. At the right time, usually synchronized with the lunar cycle, females release their eggs into the ocean, where they hatch into tiny larvae. These larvae develop in the sea before eventually returning to land as juvenile crabs, continuing the life cycle. A video showing a newborn alpaca may appear concerning at first, as baby alpacas are often born looking thin, wet, and fragile. However, this can be normal immediately after birth. Healthy crias typically weigh around 13 to 17 pounds and should begin standing and nursing within a few hours. With proper care and feeding, they usually grow quickly into strong, fluffy adults. That said, not all weak-looking newborns are healthy, so each case should be evaluated carefully rather than assuming everything is normal. Porcupines are covered in sharp quills, but their birth process is adapted to avoid harming the mother. They give live birth to babies called porcupets, which are born with soft quills that lie flat against their bodies. This softness prevents injury during delivery. Within a few hours after birth, the quills begin to harden as they dry and become filled with keratin, eventually becoming the sharp defensive structures porcupines are known for. Newborn porcupets are relatively small but well developed, with open eyes and the ability to move soon after birth. The pink, sticky clusters sometimes seen in aquariums are often snail eggs, especially from species like mystery or apple snails, although not all such growths are eggs. Different snail species lay eggs in different ways. Some deposit them above the waterline, while others attach gelatinous clusters to surfaces like glass or plants. These eggs develop over an incubation period that usually lasts 1 to 4 weeks, depending on the species and environmental conditions. A single clutch can contain dozens to several hundred eggs. After incubation, the baby snails hatch over a relatively short period, rather than continuously over several days. Because many species reproduce quickly and lay large numbers of eggs, populations can grow rapidly if food is abundant, making snail reproduction both fascinating to observe and important to manage in a balanced aquarium ecosystem. Let's meet a mother who sacrifices everything for her babies. Octopus mothers exhibit one of the most extreme forms of parental care in the animal kingdom. After mating, a female lays thousands to hundreds of thousands of eggs, attaching them in strands inside a secluded place. She then dedicates herself entirely to guarding and caring for the eggs, cleaning them and keeping them oxygenated, while rarely, if ever, leaving to feed. Over time, she becomes weak and deteriorates, as this process can last from weeks to several months depending on the species. In most octopus species, reproduction is a single, final event, and the mother dies shortly after the eggs hatch. The young, called paralarvae, emerge and begin life on their own, drifting into the ocean without further parental care. Cuckoos are well known for a reproductive strategy called brood parasitism, in which the female lays her eggs in the nests of other bird species, leaving the host parents to raise her young. In many species, the cuckoo chick hatches earlier than the host's offspring and instinctively pushes the other eggs or chicks out of the nest, ensuring it receives all the food and care. Over time, cuckoos have evolved remarkable adaptations, including eggs that closely mimic the color and pattern of their host's eggs. Female cuckoos often specialize in particular host species, increasing the chances that their eggs will be accepted and successfully raised. Metrophagy in spiders is one of the worst forms of parental care observed in the animal kingdom, and has been studied in species such as Stegodiphyus lineatus and Amarobius ferox. After laying eggs, the mother guards them closely until they hatch, at which point she begins feeding her spiderlings with regurgitated, nutrient-rich fluids. During this time, profound physiological changes occur within her body. Her digestive system and other tissues gradually break down to be converted into nourishment for her young. This process is not accidental, but a programmed biological strategy that maximizes the survival of her offspring, especially in environments where food is scarce. As the mother becomes increasingly weakened and immobile, the spiderlings eventually consume her body, gaining a final, substantial nutritional boost. Studies have shown that offspring raised through metrophagy tend to grow faster and have higher survival rates compared to those that do not receive such parental investment, highlighting its evolutionary advantage despite the cost to the mother. Do you think this sacrifice makes spiders some of the most dedicated parents in nature? Let's discuss in the comments section. Some hammerhead sharks are capable of reproducing without males through a process called parthenogenesis. In this form of asexual reproduction, an embryo develops using only the mother's genetic material, typically through the fusion of an egg with a polar body to restore the necessary chromosome count. Although the offspring are not exact clones, they are genetically very similar to the mother. This phenomenon has been observed in isolated females, such as those in aquariums, and may occur when no males are available, although the exact triggers are still being studied. Seahorses are unique in that males, not females, carry the pregnancy and give birth. During a coordinated courtship dance, the female transfers her eggs into the male's brood pouch, where he fertilizes them and incubates the developing embryos. Depending on the species, the male can give birth to dozens to over 1,000 fully formed young after a gestation period. When it is time to give birth, he undergoes strong muscular contractions to release the babies into the water. Although the female does not carry the pregnancy, seahorse pairs often maintain a bond and may mate repeatedly, making their reproductive behavior cooperative rather than deceptive. Giraffes are unusual among mammals in that females typically give birth while standing. As a result, the newborn calf drops about 5 to 6 feet to the ground at birth. Although this may seem harsh, the calf is well adapted to the fall and is usually unharmed, quickly becoming alert and able to stand within an hour. The fall itself is simply a result of the mother's height, not a specific mechanism to break the amniotic sac or umbilical cord, which separate naturally during or after birth. This rapid start helps the calf gain mobility quickly in an environment where early movement is important for survival.
Sea otters give birth to live young in the water, not on land.
The mother typically floats on her back while delivering the pup, which is born fully furred and dependent on her for survival. After birth, she carefully grooms and cradles the pup on her chest to keep it warm and buoyant. Sea otter mothers provide intensive care, often holding their pups for extended periods and protecting them from danger, making their maternal behavior especially endearing to observe. Some parasitoid wasps lay their eggs inside caterpillars, where the developing larvae feed on the host's body. They typically consume non-essential tissues first, allowing the caterpillar to remain alive during much of their development. In certain species, the caterpillar's behavior is altered by the wasps, causing it to protect the wasp pupae after the larvae emerge. Eventually, the caterpillar usually dies as a result of the infestation. Although this process may seem harsh, it is a natural and important ecological interaction that helps regulate insect populations. Kiwis are remarkable birds because they lay the largest eggs relative to their body size of any bird species. A kiwi egg can weigh between about 15% and 25% of the female's body weight, which is enormous compared to other birds. For example, a kiwi weighing around 5.5 pounds may lay an egg weighing over 0.66 pounds. Despite their size, these eggs are not the largest in the animal kingdom. That distinction belongs to birds like ostriches, but they are exceptional for the kiwi's small body. After hatching, kiwi chicks are highly developed and become relatively independent within a few days, able to feed themselves early in life. Suriname toads, Pipa pipa, have one of the most unusual reproductive strategies in the animal kingdom. During mating, the male fertilizes the eggs and helps spread them onto the female's back using his hind legs. The eggs become embedded in her skin, which grows over them to form protective pockets where the embryos develop. After several weeks, fully formed young toads emerge from these openings in the mother's back. Rather than shedding all her skin, the mother's back gradually heals and returns to normal after the young are released. Is this one of the strangest birth methods you've ever heard of? Share your story, and remember to take a look at the additional interesting content in the top right corner of the screen. While most cockroaches lay eggs in a protective capsule called an ootheca, the Madagascar hissing cockroach reproduces differently. It is ovoviviparous, meaning the female retains the egg case inside her body until the young hatch, giving birth to live nymphs. A single brood can include around 20 to 40 offspring. These cockroaches are wingless and can produce a distinctive hissing sound as a defense mechanism. Their gestation period depends on temperature and typically lasts around 50 to 60 days. The newborns are initially white and quickly darken as their exoskeletons harden. Speaking of fast reproduction, few animals can multiply quite like this next one. Baby rabbits are born blind, hairless, and completely dependent on their mother, unlike hares, which are born more developed. Rabbits are known for their high reproductive rate, with a gestation period of about 28 to 31 days and the ability to become pregnant again shortly after giving birth. Under favorable conditions, a female can have several litters per year, sometimes up to 8 or more. Litter sizes typically range from 4 to 12 young, though larger litters can occasionally occur. The babies remain in the nest for about 2 to 3 weeks before venturing out, and in the wild, the mother cares for them with minimal contact to avoid attracting predators. Not all insects follow the same rules. Some have evolved a completely different way to bring life into the world. Most flies, including houseflies, undergo complete metamorphosis, developing from eggs into larvae, then pupae, and finally adults. They often lay their eggs in specific environments suited to their offspring, such as decaying matter or ripe fruit. However, tsetse flies from equatorial Africa are an exception. They are viviparous, meaning the female carries a single developing larva inside her body, nourishing it with specialized milk secretions. After about 9 to 10 days, the female gives birth to a well-developed larva, which is relatively large compared to typical fly larvae, and immediately burrows into the ground to pupate. Unlike most flies, which produce many offspring, a tsetse fly typically gives birth to only about 6 to 10 larvae in her lifetime. Axolotls are unique amphibians and a distinct species, Ambystoma mexicanum, often nicknamed little dragons because of their feathery external gills and wide, smiling appearance. Unlike most amphibians, they exhibit neoteny, meaning they retain their larval features throughout life while still being able to reproduce. Although similar in concept to tadpoles, axolotls do not normally undergo metamorphosis due to differences in their thyroid hormone system, though it can be induced under certain conditions. They develop from embryos like other amphibians and gradually acquire their characteristic features after hatching. Elephants are among the most intelligent animals on Earth, and they live in close-knit family groups with a complex social structure. These herds are usually led by an older, experienced female known as the matriarch. When it's time to give birth, a mother elephant may move to a quieter area, sometimes accompanied by another female. Elephant pregnancies are the longest of any land animal, lasting around 20 to 22 months. When a calf is born, it is already well developed and typically weighs between 198 and 265 pounds. Within about an hour, sometimes even sooner, it can stand on its own and begin to follow its mother. Young elephants depend heavily on care and protection for several years, usually between 3 and 5. They are rarely left alone. In addition to their mothers, other females in the herd help raise and look after the calves, a behavior known as allomothering. Crocodiles are fierce predators, but also attentive parents. Females carefully choose nesting sites, either mounds of vegetation in soil or holes in sandy riverbanks, based on temperature, moisture, and protection. They typically lay between 20 and 80 eggs, which are oval and hard-shelled, similar to bird eggs. After laying, the mother guards the nest from predators. The temperature of the nest determines the sex of the hatchlings. When the babies are ready to hatch, they make chirping sounds to signal their mother. Using a temporary egg tooth, they can break the shell themselves, but the mother may assist and then carry them safely to the water. Now let's go from protective reptiles to the largest eggs on Earth. The ostrich is the largest living bird, and it lays the biggest eggs of any species, weighing up to about 4.4 pounds. In the wild, one male and several females share a communal nest, which can contain 15 to 60 eggs. The group takes turns guarding and incubating the eggs, with females typically incubating during the day and the male at night, while also benefiting from the warmth of the sun. Ostrich eggs have very thick shells, around 2 to 6 millimeters. When it's time to hatch, the chick uses a special egg tooth to slowly break through the shell over several hours. Shortly after hatching, the chicks can stand, walk, and follow their parents, beginning to explore and forage in their environment. Do you think ostrich eggs are the most impressive eggs in the animal kingdom? Let us know in the comments below. Pandas are among the most beloved animals in the world, but protecting them is challenging because their reproduction is slow and delicate. A female panda is fertile for only about 1 to 3 days each year, and successful mating is not always guaranteed. Panda pregnancies are unusual, lasting roughly 3 to 5 months due to delayed implantation. When a cub is born, it is extremely small and underdeveloped, weighing only about 3.5 to 7 ounces, compared to a mother that can weigh over 220 pounds. This represents one of the largest size differences between mother and newborn among placental mammals. Because of this, panda cubs require constant care. They begin moving gradually within the first few months, and around 6 months of age, they start to explore solid food, like bamboo, while still relying on their mother's milk. Did you know that not all lizards lay eggs? Some species are viviparous, meaning they give birth to live young. A great example is the blue-tongued skinks of the genus Tiliqua, which are found in Australia and parts of Southeast Asia. These lizards are popular as pets due to their calm nature and relatively manageable care. Depending on the species, a female blue-tongued skink can give birth to anywhere from a few to around 20 babies. The newborns are relatively large, fully formed, and able to move and feed themselves almost immediately after birth. Scorpions may look intimidating, but they are surprisingly attentive mothers. Many species give birth to live young, with embryos developing inside the mother's body for several months, and in some cases up to a year. After birth, the tiny scorpions have soft, pale exoskeletons and immediately climb onto their mother's back using their legs to grip her. They remain there under her protection until they undergo their first molt, when their outer shell hardens. After that, they leave their mother and begin life as independent hunters. Some species don't even need a partner to reproduce at all. Aphids are tiny insects that feed on plant sap and are found almost everywhere in the world, with around 5,000 species. Many species reproduce by giving birth to live young without mating, a process known as parthenogenesis. Newborn aphids look like miniature adults, which can make it seem as if they are clones, and in many cases, they essentially are. Aphids can also respond to environmental conditions such as crowding or poor food supply by producing offspring with wings, allowing them to disperse. While this process is well studied, scientists are still exploring the finer details of how these environmental signals control development. The ocean still hides some of the strangest reproductive secrets. Rays are ancient fish closely related to sharks, with more than 500 species found around the world. Many rays reproduce through ovoviviparity or viviparity, where fertilized eggs develop inside the mother's body. The embryos first rely on their yolk sac and, in some species, later receive additional nutrients from a special uterine fluid called histotroph, often described as uterine milk. When development is complete, the young are born alive, often tail first, and in some species, they emerge with their fins wrapped around their bodies. Because development happens inside the mother, the pups are born well-formed and ready to survive on their own in the ocean. Sea turtles often return to the same region where they were born to lay their eggs, sometimes traveling great distances to reach suitable nesting beaches. After selecting a site, the female digs a flask-shaped chamber in the sand and lays dozens of eggs. Once the eggs are laid and covered, the mother returns to the ocean and provides no further care. Weeks later, the hatchlings emerge on their own, usually at night, and instinctively head toward the ocean using natural light cues. Depending on the species, a single nest can contain anywhere from around 80 to over 150 eggs. Dolphins are highly intelligent and social animals, known for their strong bonds and complex behaviors. Like other marine mammals, they give birth tail first, which helps reduce the risk of drowning during delivery. Depending on the species, gestation lasts between about 10 and 18 months, and mothers usually give birth to a single calf. Dolphin mothers are attentive and protective, nursing their young for up to 2 or 3 years. During this time, calves learn essential survival skills such as finding food, avoiding predators, and communicating within their social groups. This long period of care helps prepare them for life in the ocean. There are thousands of shrimp species in oceans around the world, and their successful reproduction has helped them spread widely. In many species, females develop eggs in their ovaries, sometimes visible as a saddle through the shell. After molting, mating occurs, and the fertilized eggs are carried under the female's abdomen, attached to her swimming legs. The female regularly fans the eggs to supply oxygen and keep them clean. When they hatch, some species release tiny shrimp that resemble miniature adults, while others release larvae that drift in the water before developing further. And there you have some of the most unbelievable, fascinating, and sometimes downright bizarre animal births on Earth. No matter how strange, harsh, or beautiful these processes may seem, every single one of them has evolved for one purpose: keeping life going. If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss our upcoming journeys. We hope you enjoyed this video as much as we enjoyed creating it. See you in the next video. Security cameras worldwide